right. So we'll turn the time over to Will.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I am honored to be in this room of entrepreneurs. It really is something that I look forward to, like you don't understand. It's something that, having gone through an experience like the diagnostic business that Nathan and I had, it really has helped give me a lot of respect for the amount of sacrifice it takes for you guys to leave your families on your own dime, fly out to Florida or drive up, and to spend 2 whole days, including your weekend, because tomorrow's about travel, then Monday it's all back to the grind again, right? And so what I see is a room full of people who are fully committed to change in their life. And that inspires me. Like, I am so grateful for you guys. I'm grateful for the chance to talk. I'm really grateful to Hans. James and Nellie are just fantastic. Can we give them a round of applause for the great work? You were so close, I didn't see you. I was like, where is he? He's right with me the whole time. So yeah, they've done a fantastic job, and I can't tell you how grateful I am. I'm actually glad that they're not here, because it would sound a little pandery if they were. But I can't tell you how grateful I am for Deanie, Craig, and Costas. Like, those are a lot of who I am today, and standing here has to do with who they've been in my life over the last 6 years. The Hodge business is wonderful, but who they are as leaders, we can all agree, is just influential and absolutely inspires us to be the best we can be around it. And so I have a great love and appreciation for them. So to kick off today, I want you to know that I believe in a couple of things very intensely. I believe, first of all, in hearts. I believe in this business. I don't own any of it. I'm no longer a physical therapist treating in Hodges and having some space in it. I can see the bigger vision having gone through it. And I believe in what this group of people is doing as an organization. I also believe in something else. Is there a clicker? Or do I just need to do it manually?
Yeah, manually. There's no remote on your left. The Mac. Yeah.
I believe investing our time and energy and money in what matters most. And what matters most is the key to unlocking our unlimited potential. We're going to talk a lot about investing today, a lot about money, and a lot about what really matters. Because in healthcare, more than any other industry, we separate these things out. And you get that being business owners, and there's still room for improvement with how your mindset works around this. I promise. Because when we can fully understand the connection between profitability and potential, we understand the role of one thing, which is that profitability unlocks possibility. Profitability unlocks possibility. All right, so I will never forget April 12th, 2019. April 12th, 2019, I was in Goodyear, Arizona. That was a Friday at the end of the day. And it was the end of a really long year, almost, for us. Nathan and I exited our PT practices in 2018. And I had the opportunity to stay on this new, larger company as the VP of Marketing and Recruiting. And man, was that a learning experience, bringing all these companies together and then showing them how to unify their strengths in all these business divisions. And this particular day was a really big day because it was a matter of the first event that I didn't run by myself. I mean, I've always had a team. I shouldn't say by myself, but I didn't lead out on this one. This was being led out by a powerful leader in Nathan and I's company by the name of Stacy Sullivan. Stacy worked with Nathan long before I had the privilege of working with Stacy. Stacy, she's just a special human being. Like, she's one of those people that when walks into a room, you know it. She's loud, she's energetic, she answers the phone, good morning, sunshine, every time, no matter who it was. For years, I thought that she really liked me more than anyone else. Because every time whenever she'd pick up the phone with me, oh, good morning, sunshine, how you doing? I'm like, good, how are you, Stacy? Like, what's up? And so when Nathan, what's that? That's actually true. She was pretty bad with names too. So Stacy, she just was one of those entrepreneurs. You know what an entrepreneur is? An entrepreneur is someone who thinks external like an owner. An entrepreneur is an owner with a mindset who works within a company. Entrepreneur. She was a total entrepreneur. She loved our business. She loved Nathan, and then gratefully had the chance to work with me as well. And she was on the executive committee that I ran while Nathan was spearheading the Alaska operation that grew our company to a record-breaking year of profits. She was over all things marketing, and she was a physical therapist assistant at the time. And she was my replacement in Empower. She was my replacement. She was going to become the VP of marketing. So I could go focus on what my true love is, team development. I can do marketing and sales, but I love developing teams. And so Stacy had put this event together, and it was a huge hit. This clinic hadn't been doing very well, and all day long, we had tons of patients coming into this open house that she set up, and it was this huge hit. And I'll never forget the end of that day, just saying goodbye to her. We were in the parking lot by my car, and she just had this smile ear to ear, and just like, have a great weekend. I was like, you too. Gave her a big hug. She was one of those that hugs you no matter what, right? And so next day is Saturday, and roughly 8 o'clock at night, I get a phone call from her husband, Kevin. I pick up the phone, I'm like, hey, Kevin, what's going on? He goes, hey, Will, I don't know how to tell you this, but Stacy was in a car accident today, and she's been killed. And I just like, man, he's having a hard time breaking the news to me, right? And I just said, hey, man, like, what do you need? What can I do to help you? He's like, no, we've got it. I think we've got things under control for now. We'll keep you posted. How things develop. And I will tell you that for me and Nathan, this was a heavy blow. She was with us more than any human being ever was. And you know how those people, there's like those 1 to 3 people on your team that are just your heart. Like when you step into leadership, you think of those people as like your reason for stepping into leadership, and it's like you want to just do everything you can to help them. That was her. And so, you know, it was an interesting time in my life as well, because life had been pretty stressful around work. It was building the company in 2017 was a huge fun thing because it was this roller coaster ride. But it also took a lot on me. I don't know if you guys have ever felt like your businesses sometimes take a toll on you personally. Never. This coaching group is more of like a counseling group, right? Like, hi, my name is Will. I'm an entrepreneur. Hi, Will. But this was a particularly stressful time for me. You know, the merger. You know, we had to merge all these clinics across 4 states. It was very educational. But man, was it hard. And my time at home wasn't what it had been over the previous years. And it reminded me of my first 10 years of being in private practice where I had no time at home, right? And so I came to realize 3 crucial lessons over the next month as I sat and pondered the impact of Stacy's passings. Number 1, time is sacred. 2, not all demands of our time are equally worthy of it. Some things are more or less worthy of our time. Number 3, we easily forget what is truly worthy of our time. We forget. All good intentions, but we forget. I had the privilege of being in the room with her youngest son, Kyle, who was my Alex's age at the time. Shortly after he came out of his surgery, she was in the car with 3 of her kids, and a semi-truck was distracted and just plowed into her. So all 3 children had broken limbs, and Kyle had some of the most severe injuries. So he was told last after he had his last surgery. So I was with him, and then I had the privilege of being his physical therapist at home, teaching him how to walk over those first 2 months of his mother's passing. And Kyle, like Stacy lives on in Kyle. Kyle is this super loving, big-hearted, high-energy, positive person. Someone would talk about Stacy not being there, and he would correct them and say, "No, Stacy's still here. Stacy is still here. She's just mom's just somewhere else right now." And I got to see his courage and his triumph over how he would learn to walk again as a therapist. And it really brought to me the importance of where we invest our time. So we're going to use the word profitable here a lot today. And that might seem like a weird transition talking about someone very near and dear to me and going straight into money. And that's intentional. So let's break down the word profitability. Profit, the difference between what is earned and what is spent. Ability, possession of a skill or a talent. So profitability, therefore, is the skill or talent of earning more than spending. If we think of this word as a financial term, then we're missing the point. We have limited resources in this life, the most sacred of which is time. Where we invest our time matters. And ultimately, it's a skill that we can develop on how we develop and use our time and money so that the investments we make, the return is greater than the initial investment. And so this is a universal concept. It's like gravity. It's a universal force that when we can truly grasp it, we can leverage it to our abilities to maximize our experience on this round earth for a while and change the lives of those that matter most to us. You with me so far?
Yes.
So this is part lecture, part workshop. We're going to get really nitty gritty here in just a minute. Nathan, how long do I have till?
You have 4 minutes, so you've got another 3.
Okay, will you please give me a 5-minute warning?
My guess.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to do an activity. It might be a little bit vulnerable, but I really want to invite you to be a participant in it. If you don't want to participate, you can pretend to participate. There's no wrong thing here, but I promise it'd be a useful tool for you. Are you guys engaged with me and trust me?
Yes.
Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to sit up tall, readjust yourself. Okay. I would appreciate if everyone could be focused on this. Everyone, please. So I want you to take a big breath in 4 seconds. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Okay, now close your eyes and just start breathing normally. And I want you just to notice the rise and fall of your breath. If it helps you count the breath as you exhale. Just notice how every breath is just a little bit different. I want you to do that until you count to 10, and then you're going to start it again. 10. We're going to do this for just 30 seconds. Okay. Your eyes still closed. I'm going to ask you a question. What matters most to you? What and who matters most to you? Let the answers kind of bubble up. All right. I want you to open your eyes and write down what came to your mind, and the thoughts will keep coming. I'll give you 30 more seconds just to write. What and who matters most to you in your life? Go ahead and keep writing. For the sake of time, I'm just going to progress a little bit. Would anyone mind sharing, who's put their pen down, what they wrote down? Thank you. Yes. Your family and friends. Tell me about your family. I love it. Yeah, it's almost always who, right? In terms of what matters most in life. So one of my personal values is called hold the mirror. I've progressed my personal purpose and value statement over the years, and one of them is called hold the mirror. And so I'm hoping for some of you, this will be a bit of a mirror moment. But I want to ask you one question. If I looked at your calendar, your work calendar, what would I say is the most important to you? What would?
Are we supposed to write this down?
No, you can if you want. If you're feeling inspired, you go for it. But no, I'll always be specific with my language on that. So what would I say? And it's not just your work calendar, but like your life. If I looked at your life, where you allocate your time, your money, your resources, what would I say matters to you most? Business? Work?
Family first.
What's that?
Family.
Family? Love it. Yeah, I mean, what I want to be careful not to say is that you shouldn't spend time working. That's not what I'm saying. You know, we are entities that are capable of multiple, domains or, I'm forgetting the word, Nathan, the circles.
Oh,
Dynamics, thank you. So we're capable of living in these different dynamics, but here's the problem is that when we're not intentional about what we create, we just start creating haphazardly. And so what we often do is we let the loudest demands of our life dictate what we create. So we have to be super intentional on what matters most. And what's crazy is that where we get things confused in healthcare quite a bit is around this word profitability. First of all, we think it's a financial term. It's not a financial term. It's a life lesson. Where am I investing my time, my energy, my resources, and what's the outcome and the product of what I'm investing in? And what we can realize is that we can leverage our businesses as a tool to create unlimited possibility on every other dimension. And I know it sounds a little dramatic, but you've got to know where I'm coming from. I have seen things in my life that I never thought were possible because of people like the people in the back of the room who've inspired me, taught me how to learn these things. So my intention is to help you guys understand some important facts around how this pertains, because this is a money talk. Remember, profitability unlocks possibility. So this is the main statement that clarifies this. Money isn't why you do what you do. That list that you wrote down is the why. But we can't confuse that money is what we do it for. We are in it for profits. Not why, but we are here to make profits. We're not here. We think there's like a sacrifice, and this is where our providers get into it, right? Like, I want to give the best care for my patients. If I'm all about billing for every unit that I see, I'm not giving them I'm thinking too much about the money. They're two sides of the same coin. Our service and care is on one side. The profitability and the return on our investment is the other. And so I know you understand these concepts, but I'm hoping to present them in a way that will be different than what you've experienced previously, so that when I speak into what I'm about to talk to, it sounds different. Have you guys ever heard of the analogy, the rocks, pebbles, and sand analogy? Okay, we're gonna watch just a minute. Our lives are a container. Every organization is a container. So your business is a separate container within a container, right? But this one container represents time that we get. And then we have these different containers. We've got the container around our families. Depending on what's going on there, that container might be bigger or smaller around a certain person because of the time required. I have a son that I just learned has a developmental disorder that I didn't know he had until he was almost a senior in high school. That container has been changed intentionally to address the needs at hand. But in our life, essentially, this idea talks about how there's rocks. These represent the most important things, the things that matter most. Pebbles, and then we have sand, right? The thing about sand is that sand is loud. Sand wants your attention right now. It's the Instagram feed that even you want to look at. It's all these things that just populate our mind. We only have so many attention units that we can put our attention on at a time. And so understanding these things is vital, because if we put the sand in first, and then the pebbles, and then the rocks, there's never enough. And this is my experience. In 2015, I was told I needed a pacemaker. In 2015, I failed a tilt table test because I was having so many PDCs that I was almost blacking out. And this has happened to me actually since I've been home. Nathan knows about, but our solution, when you look at all the sand, rocks, and pebbles, is that we don't prioritize the activities as much as we just try to take it all on, right? We try to fill our container to the maximum degree. And it has an impact on our lives. If it doesn't impact our health, what do they say in business? It's the 3 Ds. It's either disease, divorce, or death. That's usually one of the 3 things that wakes people up. And so when we're not careful, these things can creep up on us. We have to be really mindful of what's at risk, as well as what is potentially available to us. So when we look at this, the first thing we need to know is the size of our container. We get a lot to say around this as business owners. I loved what Jennifer said earlier. She said, yeah, I'm given a lot of space to create however I want. I can use my calendar, my schedule. So having the space to do that is one of the reasons why we became entrepreneurs. We have to recognize which of these rocks matter first, and we have to know what's the rocks and what's the sand. So here's where we are as an industry. As an industry, right now, the average national net margin for profitability in our country for an outpatient private practice is 8%. That's the national average. Why is this? Well, the PT, first of all, is a $38 billion industry. Outpatient practices alone are $16 billion. We're not small. It's actually more than that now. It's over 20,000 private practices exist in the United States with the average net margin of 8%. So what are the rocks, pebbles, and sand in a PT practice? This is an actual question for you guys. What are the rocks? What are the pebbles? What are the sand?
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, this is a question for everyone to answer.
I don't know the business as much as he does, but it's patients, employees, and all the problems that come with it.
So, okay, so Kathy says patients, employees, and all the problems that come with it. Wouldn't life be easier if we didn't have any patients or employees? And we wouldn't have a business. Like, that's kind of the main thing on that.
No, the rocks are the patients.
Rocks are the patients, I love it. Okay,
And then the employees are the other ones, and then the sand is everything else.
would you guys agree with her on that? Okay. I don't have an opinion.
I'm not a PT, so what do I know?
So what I love about Kathy is, do you know what I love about Kathy? First to share,
Yes.
own their own experience.
Yes.
So thank you for that. But why do you disagree, Nate?
Well, we have a decision when it comes to business.
Okay,
You want me to share it now?
yeah,
And so, and this isn't,
Thanks.
I really don't want to.
Oh, yeah.
That would be debating this, but our decision filter when it comes to our businesses is the business always comes first. Whatever the business needs, those are the rocks. The pebbles and sand, the pebbles, I guess you could say maybe the rocks are the owner's needs. So business first, owner second, and for us, employees are third. Because without the first two being satisfied, the third can't have a position in the business or company.
I love that. So listen, there's a couple different ways to look at this. You know, first of all, you know, there's a whole, we could really get into the weeds on this, and I don't want to spend time on that. And truly, rocks are our teams. Our team is just as important theoretically as to our business's success as our patients are. The right team produces the right patients. But what Nathan was saying really lends to the bigger picture of what I wanted to get to, which is that when we make decisions, oftentimes it's the most urgent, pressing, emotional ones that we need handled. And the most urgent, emotional, pressing decisions usually come up from our teams. And sometimes, if we're really being honest, a lot of times we make decisions that put us as owners beneath the needs of our team, which, right? And that throws the whole thing off. Again, this is very global. We're going to get into the nitty gritty here in just a second, but it's really important that we agree on that. So for me, I look at that and I think, what is the solution to this? Let's see. So this presentation changed quite a bit. So here's what I want to say. I want us to be really clear that our focus should always be on what's profitable for our business in the container called business, okay? When we ever use anything outside of that filter that Nathan says, we're reversing the rocks, pebbles, and sand, and we're creating a problem. We're creating a problem here. Now that we understand that concept, how does that pertain to Hobbs specifically? Right? I asked you guys to do something on the break. Do you remember what it was? I'm glad everyone was paying attention. That's right. And we're almost out of time. So what do we need? What was it? To focus on. Okay. So I asked you guys to focus specifically on what it is in your EMG business that you needed to do to make it more profitable. Right? Here's what I've learned. And now we're getting to it. Pay very close attention.
Marker?
Where did I put the marker?
Right there by the.
I do that a lot. I literally will put things in the sink. If I'm talking to my wife and verbally
I
processing.
think you got 7 minutes.
Okay, really fast.
Yes.
This is where the meat is, so pay attention. This is what's happening in your businesses. We have a container called our PT practice, right? We have another container called our EMG business. Why don't you look at the size and the volume difference? Why is the volume different? It's more profitable. We're profitable. And so what's happening is we're already filled with all these rocks, pebbles, and sand here, right? And so what's happening is, let's say this is a certain service we're using outside of HODS. This is, marketing, all these rocks pertain to the different aspects of the business. When we hire on to HODS, what we're doing is we're treating it like a rock and trying to fit this massive rock into the container of our business, and it's never going to fit. It's never going to fit. It has to be its own container. How do we do that? Really fast. It has to have its own org board. You have to have your own admin scale. These are all new terms to you. I want you to look at Craig Fiera, who's no longer actually here. He was there until just a second ago. Craig Fiera owns a company called Survival Strategies. There are other companies you can look at. I highly recommend Survival Strategies. They have the ability to pretend like we weren't talking about him. His company will absolutely teach you how to form the container. You have to have those pieces. You have to have that for you. That's what Nathan and I did that shifted things. When we put our big rock called EMG into our physical therapy practice, it didn't work. It was really stressful too. Because guess what most of us are doing as owners? We're taking those responsibilities on ourselves. Remember, accountability isn't doership. Accountability just means we're responsible for it. We can make others. Nathan's going to talk into a concept called who versus what. That will hopefully resonate with this because it's a matter of finding the right who's, and maybe it's not you. But the thing that you have here is you have all this profitability waiting to be tapped into, and we're not making it work. Here's the cycle I see as a HODS partner. You get super excited about it. You spend the money because you love Deanie and Costas and Craig, and you know they're going to be incredibly high ethical people. You know it's going to change the industry, so you get it going. You do your first EMG test. You put your needle in the person. You go, oh my gosh, what have I been missing? This is huge. I love this. Your team even gets excited, some of them about it. Some are like, what are you doing? That's a different discussion. But then you get to the point where you start doing a couple of tests and then it fizzles out. Why? Because of two factors. Number one, it's a really technical skill you got to learn. This is not a separate rock in the container. It's a new container. It requires a specific amount of intention around it. So the other reason is we don't understand that it's a separate business. We have to approach it like it's a separate business. And it's really up to you if you're really wanting to be all in. I think those of you who are online and here have made a really strong commitment to making this work. So this is a matter of hopeful clarity to you, is I want you to go home and treat it like a brand new business, like a clinic. It's almost like HODS is offering an opportunity for you guys to open another clinic that has 3 times the reimbursement rate. And after you get started and you realize how hard it is, we go open other clinics because it's easier, or we go back and manage the problems of the sand, and we never put time and attention on that container as a separate entity. Whereas if we did the initial investment, bite the bullet and focus full in, fully committed, as I heard one of my wonderful mastermind people say, then it can produce greater profitability, right? So here's what I recommend. Because over time, if you don't change that approach, 2 things are going to happen. You're going to question whether or not it's even workable, and you'll start getting frustrated with HODS, or you're going to think that you're not talented enough. Maybe I'm not as good of a leader as Will and Nathan or anyone else who's figured it out. No. What we have to recognize is that, in my opinion, here's 2 workable models to create your entity. You always keep your PT practice up and running. And when you create time, if you're fully treating, we talked about this in our mastermind, separating time out to dedicate only on EMG is key. Is it a half day, a full day, 2 days? When Nathan put all of his time and attention for our company on EMG, it was a totally different world. Bart's done the same thing, and they did it in 2 different ways. But either way, we have to organize it like a separate container and know what the rocks, pebbles, and sands are, right? So you can either do one of 2 things. You can do what we did, which was have a standalone clinic like we did in Alaska and have someone that you partner with or whatever. But if you're going to do it in your own business, what you could do is you could fit this container into this container. I'm hoping this will blow some of your minds. Watch. We are trying to put this into this container. We're only able to get a little bit in. What does that mean? We put our PT practice in the EMG business. It means making the EMG business the actual priority. It doesn't change any of the successful actions of your other PT practice, but what it does is it changes this. It makes you think like Bart did. I'm not hiring PTs for care and then trying to sell them on the EMG business. I'm hiring EMG therapists who will also do some PT business. And you guys realize the power in that. You have the recruiting success right at your fingertips without even knowing it. You know what the number one reason why PTs are leaving after they graduate? They're leaving our industry more and more every year. What do you think it is? We mentioned it earlier. Student loans. The student loan to income ratio is so absurd, it's not worth it to people. And so what we have is a business model where we can tell people, and this is the button to push on these students. It's always mentoring first for them. Hey, I can mentor you into being one of the most elite physical therapists on the planet. No exaggeration. You give them the actual statistics of how many people are actually certified in these things. I'm going to teach you how to be an electrodiagnostician. I'm going to teach you to be an electrodiagnostician, and you're going to know how to do things no other therapist can do. And I'm going to pay you more to do it. Do you want a job? Like, come on! Like, it's not even like it's stupid how easy it is to recruit with that. It's stupid easy. But if your mind's is that time, can I make an agreement with you guys to go 5 minutes over?
No, you actually have 5 minutes left.
Oh, okay. Then I'm doing great. So the whole concept is it's a little bit of a mindset shift, but that's the whole thing about this. Profitability is a mindset shift. That's the whole thing. And it's a hardship because you've grown up and created some cases 20 plus years in a business where it's like, man, PT, regular outpatient physical therapy is what you've built your whole industry on. You're not taking away from that. You're adding on to it in a way that puts the right containers to where there's actual space that you don't give up time from what actually matters most. That list of things you put on the piece of paper. So listen, I had a whole different thing here on billing and collecting. Profitability unlocks possibility. Going back to my story with Stacy, I thought about my journey up to that point, and I realized I wasn't going to let another second pass before things changed again. So that April, after Stacy passed, I sat down with Heather and I just said, what can we do? What can we do to put our time and investment where it matters most, our family and each other? And she and I worked on it and we talked about it. I mean, it was interesting because I went back to my journey and I thought about how this was so true for us and me and Nathan. I'll always be grateful for the day that I met Demi, Kostas, and Craig. It's an emotional day for me because of what I'm about to show you. I've said this before, but we decided to leave it all because we had the profitability from growing and scaling our company. We decided it was time to make a major life shift. And so that's my oldest son, Ethan, my second son, Alex, and that's Cal on the back of a camel in Jordan. We lived in Europe for 6 months. We decided because of the impact that owning a business had taken to do something radical, but we couldn't have done this if we hadn't focused on the rocks and the containers where they needed to be. If Nathan and I had never separated those two containers, there would have never been the profitability. Neither one of those companies would have grown to what they were. And that was just our way of cutting that pie. There's a million pieces, million different ways to cut that pie. In that 6 months is when I learned that one of my sons has a developmental disorder that's really hard to catch. And because we were spending so much time, we caught it and we're addressing it right now. And it's changing his life. So when I came back from Europe, I had a completely open slate of like what I want to create. Everything I knew had to be focused in healthcare. It had to be focused in helping medical entrepreneurs land their dream job, launch a private practice, learn to lead, and create a legacy. My 4 L's. So everything I do is centered around that. And based off that book, First Who, Then What, I decided to look to see who are the who's that helped me focus on profitability. And the first person that was available was Katie Archibald. Katie was another one of Nathan's hires. I get a lot of attention for being a recruiting guy, a talent acquisition expert. But these two people I'm bringing up, these were Nathan's hires. And so Katie came in and she saw the world differently. She knew to focus on profitability. She also knew something that was incredibly useful, like helping me understand that I didn't know how to run the billing, but I could understand how to leverage her and her team to make my company more profitable. So I came back, she was available. She went with us. She became the head of the billing department of that large conglomerate Empower. She ran it successfully for 1.5 years, and then she decided to get out of it because she missed the personal connection with the PT entrepreneur. She's been doing it for almost 30 years. She's easily the best in that space. So she was the who. She helped me create profitability, and that was the first thing I did. So that's why, if you want to know why I came back and started a billing company, it was because of that. And so that's our company in the black. I don't hire billers, I hire financial therapists. They all live in Arizona, they're all American. And this isn't a sales pitch because we've honestly grown way faster than we can handle. We've stopped taking clients until September. We only want to be double where we are now. We're only taking 9 more clients and then we're done. Katie doesn't want to lose that connection with people, and then I'm going to work with that company to help leverage other things. But we hire financial therapists. And so that's been so fun. What we do that's different is that she bills at a level that no one else, I think, can. All 9 of our clients have told us, despite any of those initial startup problems, that every single one of them has seen an increase in their cash flow, an increase in their profits, every single partner. And then what I get to do is take that financial data and develop a deep personal relationship with each of my partners. I meet with them frequently, in some cases almost daily, just helping them apply these principles to talent acquisition or whatever it may be, because the more we can connect these rocks, the smaller they seem to feel in our container. So if you guys want to connect with me, here are the 3 ways. Here's my calls to action. First of all, I have a YouTube channel set on that, Landing Your Dream Job, Learning to Lead. I create videos all the time. If you ever want a specific video being made, I do these for my clients. You guys are my clients. Remember, I can help, we can all help everyone. But we can only serve a select number of people, right? We can help everyone, but we can only serve so many people. This is my way of helping everyone. So send me video ideas, honestly. Like, hey, Will, I'm having a problem with the leader doing X, Y, and Z. I'll make a video on it because, hey, you should see this YouTube video from this guy, and it helps resolve some of these issues. So the last thing is, if anyone wants a profitability audit, what I can do is go through and show you every aspect of how your billing company and other domains of your business overlap. I've done dozens of these already. And I'll tell you what the most amazing thing to me is that a lot of you have it figured out very well. Like, I'm not here to say that like many people haven't. There's almost always, though, some money just sitting in your accounts receivable right now that's ready to get. And that's something I can help you identify. But at the very least, that's something of a deeper dive that would take us hours on our end to dive into. That's at no cost as well. And I don't, honestly, I'm looking for very specific people to join our billing company. So I've been very clear, yep, you're a fit, you're not a fit. Other people, like, you don't need me, you've got an in-house solution that's doing great, but why don't you focus on these next 5 or 6 things, right? So if you just want that help, I'm happy to give that as well. But either way, guys, I want you to understand that, like, as we move forward, we got to keep our eyes on the prize. Martin Luther King is one of my all-time heroes. He was so keen on envisioning a day when everything was going to be better, a dream, right? What's your dream? Like, I never thought of a day where I could go to Europe and do that. Like, that was crazy to me. It blows my mind still that we had it. But it came from focusing on profitability in my business. That's the connection between money and what you wrote down on that list there. So at the end of the day, helping physical therapy and medical entrepreneurs increase their income, impact, and freedom is what I do. But helping them change how they think and discover what's possible is who I am. Thank you.
Oh, so we use in the black billing at Magnolia, and I feel like I'm hi, I'm on. I'm in the black billing client. No, but it was really cool. I just want to say a quick story. Is that my Marion location? I have a receptionist who's great. But he gets worried about everything. He's always worried about stuff. And so there was a situation that happened, and he was less than worried about it. And I said, "Well, did you come about a solution for that?" He said, "Yeah, I just texted Will." So I just want to give one little shout out to Will. Is that and I asked him, "Yeah, Will just told me, just let me know if you have a problem." And so I've got my receptionist of one of my satellite locations reaching directly out to Will to solve problems. So we appreciate that. That was all. I appreciate even just that one day, he wasn't stressed out. That's right, awesome, thanks. We'll turn it over to Craig.
Great, thank you, thank you. By the way, where's Will? Where'd he go? Thank you, man, that was awesome, really awesome, all right. Okay, I'm gonna go over a particular tool. I happen to be licensed to be able to deliver some of Hubbard's management technology, which I think half of you in this audience know what I'm talking about, the other half don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so we're gonna go over a particular tool from Hubbard's technology that you can use that will help you in what you're doing. Is that okay with you? Okay, good, that's awesome. So the first thing I wanted to mention that I mentioned at lunch, remember earlier someone asked Demi, how do you tell if someone is going to be a good candidate for study, the EMG? Do you remember that question?
Yes.
Well, you can ask somebody in an interview, could you please describe to me how you learned something? Now that sounds like an innocent question, but the point is it'd be good to find out. How do you actually study something? And if they go, well, I just learned it. Well, how? Because you'll find things like, have you ever gotten to the end of the page, you read something and you don't remember what you just read? Who's ever experienced that? Okay, well, there's a reason for that, by the way. But that's a good thing to know. You read something, you get to the end of the page and you don't know what you just read, it's almost like pretending to learn in one particular viewpoint, right? The other thing would be when you come across a term that you have no clue what the term means, what do you do? And if they go, well, I don't really do anything. Okay, wait a second. So you run across a term like electrician or whatever it is. You're never going to live that down, man. I'm sorry.
I love it.
So do I. It's cool. But you don't really get a dictionary out and find out what the term means. Okay. Now, you don't do this to make the person wrong. That's not the viewpoint. You're trying to get an understanding of what have I got here, because this person has to learn your policy, correct?
Yes.
Good. So next thing you might ask them is, how do you know that you have studied something? How do you judge that you've actually studied it? Now, what kind of answer could you hear? Just give me some examples. Give me some examples.
I understand it.
I understand it. Good. Right. Bottom line.
The test.
Can you apply it? Exactly. Bottom line. Now, I grew up studying music as a musician, and I still do music all the time. But in that skill, you had to study theory and you had to practice a lot, right? So you want to find out from this person, you're trying to see what's the willingness of this person to learn what you do here. And if you start hearing things that like know best, it's called. Have you ever heard that term? Know best, they seem to not really care about learning anything. They think they know it all already. Guess what's going to happen? Yes, Bill, tell me, what would happen? Yeah, they're not going to learn this stuff. So that was that thing. I didn't come up here to say that. I just wanted to do that. Does that help you out a bit? Okay, good. All right. So this is a great little tool here. I like this tool. It's very innocent. Name. Want. Remember this, Nathan?
Yeah.
I went over this with Nathan and he said, no, you need to go over this at the convention. I said, okay. This is called name, want, and get your product. Name, want, and get your product. What the heck does that mean? This is a microcosm tool, and it's a macrocosm tool. You can apply this to a communication. You can apply this to a position. You can apply this to a whole company. You can apply this to your life. Now, if I said to you, James, go get me a screwdriver. Exactly. Exactly. I didn't name it. Go get me a Phillips screwdriver that's this big. You can do it now, correct? If you say to the front desk, make sure the patients arrive for their treatment. What's wrong with that statement as a named product? On time. There's no time in that product. So they'll make sure their patients arrive for treatment. But for them, it's okay if they're 30 minutes late.
Yeah.
You follow me? So this is a very, very important step here. A really important step. And this ties into what everybody's talked about here. Have you named your business? Name is not just what's your name. If you look it up in a dictionary, it's a full and complete description of what it is you're trying to do or accomplish. In this case, you're trying to create a company that is modeled to make profits. And I had a question to ask, who has done that in their company? Whoa. Who has modeled their company, knows exactly what they have to do to make exact profit margins? Who's already done
Now
it?
or at the beginning?
No, right now.
Right now, we're.
You've done it, you've done it, you've done it, done it. Okay, about 2/3. Well, that's really good. Usually the answer to that question is not that answer. Who hasn't done it? You didn't raise your hand either way. So what have you done? You haven't done it? You guys?
In the process of doing.
Okay, good, good. Well, we can help too. So you want to get this thing named out. You can do this for every position. You can do it for your company. You can do it all over the place. But this is the one, I remember that when we were discussing, there was a bit of an aha here. So I sit you down and I say, you need to be doing 60 visits a week. Okay, that's what you have to do. I'm paying you this money. That's your bottom line, it's called, right? And you go, just tell me something. Just be a little bit negative about it. Got it. Okay. So now we get into a discussion about economics, which I'm not going to do right now. Most of your folks don't understand economics, correct?
Yes.
Good. So
Hold on.
economics.
They understand it in their own way.
Well, okay, you're right. You're right. You're right. They understand it in their own way. To them, economics is not the study of the production and distribution of a product or service. It's the definition of economics. The definition is normally like, what am I going to make?
Yeah.
Right? And they're not there to help you make profits.
No, what little do I have to do?
Yeah. Sad comment, but I guess that's true. So then you have to get
Why
into,
not? Why you not paying me what I'm buying? Yeah, according to them.
remember, from a leadership viewpoint, you have to establish what it is, and that is what it is. And then you have to bring your people to an understanding that if you're going to work here, this is what's expected. If I'm giving you 100,000 a year, you have to bring me 300. By the way, that's what it's supposed to be, 3 to 1 minimum in your profession. 3 to 1, that's minimum. We have to, some of you folks who've gone over this with. If it's less than that, you're going to have financial problems. So do you translate that to money? Not all the time, because the therapists sometimes, the staff therapists don't understand the money, but they may understand the visits. So you can go down to the number of visits you expect them to do. Now you're naming what's happening. However, now you go to this step. Do you want to do 60 visits a week?
Of course not. They don't want to.
So what do you do?
Have that conversation before you hire them.
That's exactly correct. That's exactly correct. This is all done in the hiring interview. This is because to change your culture, it's hard when everybody thinks that, oh, I do 40 visits and that's, you know, I get my paycheck and that's just how it is. And I know the owner wants to make more money, but that's the owner. It's not me. You follow? And now you've got to switch your whole culture, and that's a rough thing to do. So please do it in the hiring interview. But before you do that, you have to figure out the numbers. What do you tell the person? Who's worked that out? I think most of you have. You must do blah, right? Okay, good. Awesome. Educated crowd. I love it. So we've got the name, we've got the want. Now here's the problem with this step. If it's a pro-survival thing, it's called. In other words, it's a good thing you're talking about. It's been proven to be a good thing for other people. It's a desirable thing for others. And now you're presenting it and this person doesn't want it. What would that mean to you? Huh?
They won't get it.
Good. Well, how about this? Here, I'll give you an example. We train a lot of people in my company. We've worked with close to 5,000 clinics at this stage. That's a lot of clinics. And in that time period, we've always used Hubbard's material. That's what we do. We don't make people, we don't change their religion. That's something else. This is business, right? And we're educators. And it's so funny, sometimes you'll sit a staff member down, not an owner, and you go, well, this material here we're going to be studying, we've used it with like, well, when you count the staff, I don't know, 15, 25,000 people. And it's very beneficial and it'll help you on your job. Would you like to use it? Right? No. Well, wait a minute. let's go over that
They go
again.
back, they go back to the question, what you want is not the same that they want.
That's
That was
correct.
in the economics. They don't understand economics the same way you
They
understand.
don't- Or they have a gigantic fixed idea here, you see, in the area of what you're trying to present to them, or,
They don't understand.
no, they don't understand it. And you do all you can to help somebody through that. What?
They don't want to understand.
They don't want to, go there you go. Then it's over. Yes.
Simply because we're talking about finances.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about finances and having this conversation with Will just a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
we talked about visits. This becomes very relevant and hits the bottom line. When you're talking to a front desk person and telling them the importance of collecting over-the-counter copays and deductibles at the time of service, if not before. If they don't want to collect the money, you're hemorrhaging cash.
Right.
They have to understand that that's a product. You have to name that product. They're expected to collect 100% of the copays at the time of service, not after, and maybe even keep the credit card on file instead of collecting it at the time of service because of COVID. Good reason, right? To keep your credit card on file. If they don't want to do that, you will lose a ton of money. And I think we've all learned that from experience, but it's important that they understand that they want to do that and that they're okay with it.
Correct. And the want sometimes can be based on the fact that the person doesn't really know how. That could be the case. They don't know how. They don't have the education to talk to an irate patient, let's say, when they call up. You know, you tell them that you must handle all the patients on the telephone, and you notice a hesitation when you get to the want step. Say, well, what would cause you not to want to do this? Great question. And they go, well, I don't like to talk to people that are upset. Oh, would you like to learn how to talk to people that are upset comfortably? Well, that's a good idea. Okay, good. Let's give you some training. And then you're off and running. If you have that discussion going, it's still negative and it's still unwilling. No, I don't really want to learn how to do that. Well, you know, they're on the wrong job. They're in the wrong group, right? How are we doing on this? Is this helping you guys, or is it a waste of time? Yeah, it's okay? Okay, good, great. So we've got name it, want it. This, there's more to this statement. It says to get, you have to know how to organize. Obviously, you've named what you're doing. Everybody wants to do it. Well, now what are the steps you have to take to actually make it happen? You know, like, do I have a phone? Do I know how to use the phone? Do I have, you know what I mean? The steps in the real world in order to get the thing done. The reason I'm bringing this up is if you have somebody that's having problems here, this is a sequence. It's possible that this hasn't been completed with that individual or with you. You haven't really done this step in your own space and then communicated it to another. They can understand it, because if it is done properly, you'll find, golly, way over 80% of people will go into agreement with wanting to do this. 20% will have a problem for some reason. So if you're stuck here, go back here. You see, view it again, check it out. Oh, it's not really worded right, whatever it is. Like the thing I mentioned about the appointments. Oh, I want to get people to arrive for their appointments. And you think that that's it. And you're noticing that, wait a minute, it's not quite it, because they're not arriving on time. So that was an incomplete named activity. Name it, go back down to here. This sometimes takes a lot of discussion. Who has gotten to this stage and the person was reluctant to do it? Anybody else? Probably everybody in here. Everybody's had staff that are reluctant. And how did you handle it?
I find that the staff that are reluctant,
I find people that are reluctant to, we have a saying, it's called the NPT way. When you come in, you're like, we policies, procedures, it's the NPT way. And those people who tend to not want to follow that way, they weed themselves out. You know, they're not going to be a good fit. Even though in the interview, they can tell you, oh yeah, I'm on board. This is great. I want to do this. You know, if they get in and they're like, well, I might have said I wanted to, but I really don't think I want to, then they're not going to make it, you know? So that's just
how it is.
Yeah. And sometimes we facilitate that based on, in a nice way. With high ARC always.
If we've all been through the trouble person in your group, it can be a real pain. And it's funny, have you noticed when you have somebody that leaves that really shouldn't be there, what happens to the group? It's miraculous. Yes.
Normally, do you find in your experience, because this is what I see a lot, is that we recognize the issue here. I don't usually find it when I name it.
Go ahead.
What I usually find is, when you name it, they'll most often say that they want it. I usually find it out backwards, and it's that they're not getting their damn product.
Okay.
And that's where you
Okay.
find a disagreement, that they don't want it. We usually learn about that lack of want or lack of agreement backwards, right?
Sure.
It's just someone who's not getting their product, and you start beating your head against the wall. Why can't they do it like everybody else? And they just don't want it.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. So if you're right, if you're down here, then you go back. That's exactly what you're saying. You're not getting it. You go, well, first of all, check this out. Are they organized enough to be able to get it? This is the organized. They're supposed to answer the phone. Have they studied the manual on how to answer the phone?
Yeah.
Right? And they have, this is subjective. See? This is a subjective thing that can block the rest of this thing even going on. The problem with some people, they're very good at hiding it. The good news is there's not a high percentage that do that. The bad news is they're very good at hiding it. The ones that do it. You see, it's in the interview, it looks great. Yeah.
I just want to say, because you said something that parallels what I was talking about. Like you just said, maybe you asked, are they organized to get it?
Right.
So that goes back to what I was talking about. Like, are we, as a company, are we structured? Are we organized to get the E&G product?
Right. Right.
And it's so funny because I didn't get like a fraction of what I was heading to around like starting with the end in mind and determining what the potential earnings could be from that business, what the break-even point is, and then start to build that way, right? I love that you bring that in because it's applicable to our teams and to ourselves.
Good. I mean, you can take this to the point of naming what somebody, wants to be. Someone says, I want to be a doctor. Well, you can broaden that out. That's my thing. Do I really want this? Well, let me just check that out myself. Do I really want, I always wanted to do this other thing. How come I'm forcing myself into doing this thing? You see? And then you get that clear, as you know, when somebody gets a passion, they'll move mountains to get it done, right? This becomes easy because this is the learning step. This is, organization has to do with training. Also, you may name, you have to answer the phone. Oh, I absolutely would love to answer the phone the way you want me to do it, but I don't know how to answer the phone. So that's where the training comes in. Is helping? Okay, all right. What I'd like to do now, because I always do this, and when I do my delivery, I like you to do something. So it's not just a one-way flow. So do grab the person next to you and see if you can name to them the concept of your entire EMG business. How's that? Huh? The concept, what it is to you. What it is, what it means to you. All right. So how was that? Did that, anybody have any kind of, was there an improvement?
Yes.
From where you were before you did that communication afterwards on stuff? Yeah? Okay, that's awesome. So just a couple minutes left. Once again, name one, get. Now, how many have had trouble with their other therapists in their practice getting them to refer for testing? Oh, whoa.
We just started, so we don't know.
Okay. Now, I guarantee you, what's the first thing you have to do?
Name it.
That's right. They got to know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Diagnostic testing to them means what?
Yeah.
They haven't a clue. They didn't even know that they can. We did a survey and found was that 97% of physical therapists in the United States did not even know they could do these tests.
Yes.
So you have a public that's coming out of school, they don't know. So this is the first thing. Now, what if you do all that stuff, right? Really named, it's understood, you go to here, and would you want to refer your patients? What's going to happen? What could happen?
80% positive.
Well, 80% should be positive if this is done correctly, by the way. If it's not done correctly, you got to go back to that name thing again. There's something they didn't quite, oh, here's a great question, by the way. I love this question. I do this all the time. I tell somebody something, I have them read a policy, okay? When they're done reading the policy, they say, great, that's great. Was there anything on that page you didn't understand?
Do they always say no?
Exactly. Right? Always. Oh, no, no, I got it. Okay. Was there anything on the page you had any kind of disagreement with? Lag. Oh, what's that? Well, this thing here about I can't wear tennis shoes to work. Now, they just told you a second ago that they read the policy and they understood it, right? Now you ask them another question, you're starting to find out they didn't really understand it. It's
Well,
very interesting.
They understood, but they didn't like it.
Yeah.
That's different.
Okay, well, it'd be very hard to not to like something that you didn't agree with.
Okay.
It fits in as a package. Agreement and liking something fits right into the package. Think about it. If you like talking to him
Yeah.
and listening to him, you probably agree with what he says.
Yeah.
If you didn't like him, what may you do with the communication that he tells you about? You probably disagree with it. That's all. So it kind of fits in together. All right. Any questions? Because I got, what, 1 minute? What?
A couple minutes.
I don't want to talk. No.
Does this work with, and maybe it works a little bit in different order with marketing?
Sure.
Like,
Maybe you start with your marketing with these same words, but do you kind of push for what the patients want first and then name what you can give them? For some reason, I thought maybe marketing might use a different tactic.
Well, marketing would be surveying, but you can't market something if you don't already have a product. Or you're trying to survey to find a product that needs to be created for a market. That's another type of survey. But when you're going to do marketing, you normally have some service that you already know how to do.
but do you promote the name of the product, or do you promote what the patient wants out of it?
It depends on the survey.
I guess, I don't know, it's convoluted, I'm sorry.
No. Listen, if you did a survey of a bunch of people and you found out that it's got to be a good percentage, 60%, 65% wanted your product, whatever it was. Let's say it's a running program in your clinic.
Or payments, or better care, takes less cost to your pocket if you use these tests.
Yeah, okay. So you would define that, of course, to do the survey against. That's right. Then you find out if they want it.
Yeah.
And they may not.
But Craig, but still, when you, I mean, you're still maybe searching those wants and needs. I mean, if you're sitting and going and saying, hey, I mean, what are you wanting? What are you needing? How can I help you in that process? And then you can still go to, well, this is what we have. That may make a difference. Then you can name it.
Sure. Listen, apply this to a relationship with a referral source. Guys, you've gone in and done this with the referral source. You follow?
Absolutely.
You've done your thing. You explained that you have testing and it's all good and you found out they got it and all that stuff. And then you get to the next step and they don't really want to have a relationship with you. Has anybody ever had that happen? What could that be?
They didn't really understand what you're talking
Well, wait a second.
But they didn't agree with you.
They didn't agree with you. They didn't understand it. Or there could be some other agenda happening.
Yeah.
Like they're getting paid under the table that they don't want to talk to you about that.
Somebody else.
Yeah, that their ethics can be so low. It's very simple. If you present something that's a good thing to somebody, just think this thought through. It's a good thing. It's going to help them. And you've really gone over it with the person and they don't want to have anything to do with it. What? I don't know about you, but for me, if I really have done my job, I'd be, you know what? We don't need a relationship. I don't need this relationship. I'll go talk to somebody else. There's a lot of people around here. Follow? So that's that. How am I doing, Will, Nathan? Jesus.
Take questions.
Huh?
Take questions.
Okay, questions. Following orders. Questions?
It's a question and a statement at the same time.
Yes.
What's that? Oh.
Question and statement at the same time. Talking to Tony, we came to the realization because you were talking about the other therapists to refer to the diagnostics to.
That's what we were.
Okay. But if we change the name, not only refer to me, to the owner, okay, I'm doing the hard part, you have to refer to me, and I'm gonna make more money. That's what they're gonna understand. And there you go, isn't it? But if you put the other point, the will and Costa say yes, and we'll start compensate them
Sure.
for the referral.
Sure.
First, then you can add what Bart said, start telling, okay, how much is the student loan? I just put an example because the guy who was training with me, he has over 200,000 student loan. Okay? So now the only thing he sees is, well, I'm gonna make more money. So now you say, okay, yeah, you wanna make more money, you wanna do home care, yeah, they're gonna pay you more per visit, but you're gonna have to be working until 10 o'clock at night to be able to pay all that. Instead of doing odds, where they're gonna pay you a lot more money in the long run, and you're gonna be able to pay your student loan earlier, not with the other system.
Well, what a
You
great.
see, no, you see, now you change the name completely, and they wanted to get it in 2 seconds. So-
Very good.
So thank you.
Very good. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's great. Okay, let's see. Any other, where were we? Questions? 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 This side, I kind of neglected this side of the room for some reason. My haircut. Well, it's my need of a haircut. No, no, no? Great. Hey, thank you very much.
So much, Greg.
All right.
Can I take your?
Oh, you need.
I hope, if you guys haven't talked to Craig, he's more than available to talk. I mean, you have to respect his time and he'll schedule you a time, but he's more than willing to talk and knowledgeable. We worked with, I don't know how many years we never worked with survival strategies, but formally, but to get you on the phone and converse about an issue that we have is you're available and you're quick to diagnose what we need to do about it. And so it's great to have that. All right. Thank you. So like Will, who said earlier this morning that he changed a lot of his presentation last night based on what was coming up, I'm kind of feeling the same way. And so based on what we talked about today, so bear with me if I'm stumble at a couple different parts of my presentation, because I'm recognizing, and I shared that with Janine at lunch, when she asked how long we've been in business as owners. No one raised their hands if it was 0 to 5 years. All of us are like 10, 15, 20 years in business. We're really smart people. We've just achieved a lot as owners. And we're, what's that? We are humble to a fault, damn it. To a fault. We are the musculoskeletal experts and we still kneel at the doctor's, whatever. So we need to recognize that we are great. We've done great things in this room. We've affected tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people in our communities, collectively, here, online, everyone that's part of PODS. So we need to recognize that. So I'm just saying, I want to preface that by saying, I might stumble over a little bit of my presentation today, just a little bit about our story. And I think I shared this with my mastermind group, but I'll make it really quick. Will and I had clinics in Arizona. We bought into HODS a few years ago, 5, 6 years ago. And like I said, it wasn't going very well. We decided to make its own business. I took over that, was doing stuff in Arizona. We decided to also do work in Alaska. Once we took that over a couple of years, or once we decided to make those changes, sold the businesses in a couple of years after that. And now we're really focused on helping as much as possible. I mean, Will in his capacity in doing billing collections. I'm a business coach for PT owners. I also do a podcast for PT owners, if you didn't know, called the Physical Therapy Owners Club. You can find it on iTunes. It's really accessible. I've interviewed over 100 successful PT owners. I have over 100 episodes, been doing it for a couple of years. Because I felt as an owner that I was an island back in the day. And that was 2002. There's a ton of resources now that weren't around in 2002. And I don't want any owner to feel like that anymore. You guys are successful and you're willing to share, right? And so I saw the podcast avenue as a communication channel to be a resource to other owners to say, listen, here's somebody who's been there, done that, and we're going to talk about this topic today. And there are not a lot of PT podcasts out there that do that right now. I'm proud of my content. I think if an owner is interested in different topics about ownership, whether it's marketing, human resources, developing personal purpose and values, front desk and billing and collections. We talk about all that stuff. And so it's great. I would refer you over there. And so that's one of my purposes now, is to be a resource for physical therapy owners. And so today's conversation is going to initially talk about some data that I learned that I think you might find valuable in some of the in a survey that I did back in 2019 amongst HODS owners. And then I'm going to talk about mindset a little bit, and I'm going to touch on points like Will talked about, and that Dini and everyone's talked to some point about in terms of ownership. And so some of the fundamentals here, as I'm working with PT owners on a regular basis, I would say routinely, they're not clear about their purpose. Their purpose will say something along the lines of, we provide the best manual therapy in our community to the benefit of our patients, which is uninspiring, I'm sorry. And it's more, and every other clinic around you is saying the same thing to the same doctors that you're marketing to. Your purpose is your why. If you watch Simon Sinek, it's a popular YouTube video, please watch it. Your why. It's why you do things. It's why you are in business. Why are you providing this service, right? It could be anything. You know, ours evolved over time. Initially it was to bless the lives of others, and it eventually became helping others rise above. Notice it didn't say anything about physical therapy in there. The physical therapy is the what that we do, right? So the why is your purpose. The what then becomes that vehicle of how you live out your purpose. That needs to be reiterated over and over and over and over and over and over with your teams. Otherwise, as we go through these financial conversations and expect more production out of our teams, they're going to think you're in it all. It's for the money. Do you hear it? I mean, especially amongst the newer generation of grads. If you're pushing production, you're all about the money. And for some reason, profitability is taken on a negative tone in our profession. And I think it goes high. I'll just say that. I don't think they push profitability enough in our profession. And we're suffering for it, as evidenced by our reimbursement rates, which are mostly not profitable. So recognize then, what is the purpose of your diagnostics business? Remember, this is a separate business. It can still fulfill the same purpose, right? Why did you invest it in the first place? Just to help you guide maybe your purpose behind your diagnostics business. Why did you invest in it? There was some excitement, there was some emotion behind dropping thousands of dollars into HODS. There was something. What was it, right? Is your purpose for diagnostics inspiring you now, years later, as it did when you signed up? What got missed? Maybe, I would venture to say, and we'll talk a little bit later, that maybe you're not completely clear about what your purpose is. Maybe, no? Do you have some specific goals for diagnostics? Your diagnostics business, not the PT business. What are your specific diagnostic goals in 2021? And I'm grateful that Dini had you do some of that yesterday in the exercise. Your 5 goals. Is it a gross revenues goal? Is it the number of tests? Is it some certification and training that you need to get? Is it all 3? I mean, do you need to get one before the other? Yada, yada, yada. What are your specific diagnostics goals in 2021 to help you attain that purpose that you have to live out your purpose in diagnostics? Maybe in 2020 you felt like this guy. Yeah, everything's fine. We're fine. Everything's fine. While everything's burning down around you, right? I don't have a screen. So let's talk a little bit about benchmarks to help us be successful. The PT industry, we're usually, if not 1, maybe 2 decades behind in our technologies as physical therapists. When you talk about benchmarks in the dental industry, there will easily be about 100 consulting companies that will share you dental benchmarks for successful dental practices throughout the nation of various sizes and whatnot. There are financial, there are statistical benchmarks of a profitable dental operation. When I met with my CPA, when I finally did meet with a CPA on a regular basis, 10 years into clinic ownership, he asked for the regular PT benchmarks. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, well, dental benchmarks, they're all over. You can just Google it. There was nobody doing it. I mean, Chuck Felder used to do it. I don't know if he's still doing it. And I think PPS, through the peer-to-peer network, is starting to establish some PT benchmarks to compare what a normal clinic of your size is in the nation and what the salary percentages are, what your expense rates are, what your profit margins are, and see if you're normal. So I did some benchmarks of my own with the HODS owners to see just, I got some data that I thought was interesting and I want to share, right? So let's get into this. Data from the 2019 HODS Partner Survey, 15 owners responded, so maybe a third of the owners. The owners that were actively treating patients full-time, 33% of the owners. 15 owners treating patients part-time, right? 40%, 0 to 2 days, 27%. This is where it becomes interesting. I saw a correlation between how much owners were treating and their diagnostics revenues that I think is important to know. Where are you and what are your diagnostics revenues like? The 0 to 6 years in HODS was simply, I was wondering maybe there's a connection between how much time they're spending in HODS and their revenues. No, there's people in the 6 and 7 years that still aren't generating diagnostics revenue. Ones who are actually 1.5 to 3 years as partners are more than likely to generate. I'm not talking about, I mean, this isn't a huge survey, this is just what I can do, right? Notice the percentage is the same. 20% of the people who are making at least 50 to 100,000 and more dollars per year are the same percentage of owners that aren't treating patients. What is that? You see the correlation? You see the connection? Hopefully it tells a story, right? So these are the statistics that we got from that. Those who were making 50 to 100,000 plus per year were doing this. And I share this just to compare your numbers with them that are quote unquote successful financially. Is that we take this, if they were doing 30 EMGs, maybe they're doing 10, if they're doing 15 and 20, there's variations in those ratios, but they were at least doing this much. And this was multiple choice. They weren't like filling in their numbers. So it could be much more than this, right? But they're doing a high volume of the EMGs, or they're doing a high volume of SKUS and maybe a little bit of the other side. And BART's data proved that out today, right? So that's what they're doing. And so I'm just establishing so you guys can see what others are doing. So you have to look at this now and take the next step. How does this data affect your 2021 goals? If you had a money target, well, how many tests do you need to do to hit your money target, right? If you have a testing goal, will that revenue be, and is it set, what will it be, and is that satisfactory, right? And are your testing goals in line with what you want dollar-wise? What do you need to, then lastly, what do you need to do in order to become the 27%? And based on knowing what I'm going to present later, I should have rephrased this question. Who do you need to find for you to become part of the 27%? That's either number one, treating 0 to 2 days per week, or generating revenues of at least $100,000 a year of diagnostics practice. Who do you need to find? And I will say this, if there's a limitation in your business, it's because of you. You are the limitation. You can blame a lot of things, but when you change the question from what do I need to do? How do I need to do that to who do I need to find? Who do I need to network with? Who do I need to partner with? Who does Facebook ads? Because I can't visit my doctors in person anymore. Who can send, how am I gonna, not how, who do I use? What vendor, what person, what doctor, which insurance, whatever it is. The one reason why we were able to be successful in Alaska prior to me being board certified in EMGs, because you all know Medicare won't pay unless you're board certified in EMGs. And we were able to get practice of the year. We grossed $500,000 in 1 year. We did practice of the year in diagnostics alone. Was because I partnered with a provider who would work with me and oversee my EMGs, right? So that, and they billed Medicare, and I got a cut, a flat rate for doing those tests under that supervision. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had not found the who, right? So a lot of times it's not about the how, because if you start thinking about how am I going to do this, where am I going to go, then you'll stop. You're asking the wrong questions. You'll set up your own barricades, right? When you start thinking about who and start asking, well, who, then you can make greater progress. I would dare to say that Jennifer is an example of Dan's who. She didn't know that she wanted to do EMGs, by the way. She didn't know that she was great at it until Dan found the who, was like, hey, maybe you fit over here because I see something in you. And I will say this, and I wanted to say this morning. If we're going back to Will's point about mindset, if we're thinking that Jennifer is the unicorn, then you'll never find her. You'll never find your Jennifer. But when you think there are thousands of Jennifers graduating every year from physical therapy schools, I just need to find them, that's a mindset, right?
That's your goal.
That's your goal. I just need to find them. And they don't even know that they want to do EMGs.
But they know they have debt.
They have debt. We can talk to them about debt. We can talk to them about our purpose. Roy was awesome when he shared with me his concept for EMGs. We're going to provide physical therapy that's got, I'm sorry, I'm rewording it for you and I'm on the spot. That's scientifically backed to provide the best outcomes for our patients. Well, what student wouldn't want to be like, yeah, I want to do what's best for my patients and actually figure out an appropriate plan of care that's not dependent upon poorly sensitive and poorly specific special tests. Yeah, I want to do that, right? Oh, okay. Well, you want that? Well, I've got something for you. And it's this, right? Which is essentially what Jennifer wanted, right? So think about the who. So Dini did this a couple of years ago and it struck me. So I stay with him. We all have probably read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We're readers. So if you know what I'm going to ask you, you kind of know where I'm going with this. Who in here is a business owner? Raise your hand. Who's a business owner? Right? You should be business owners. Right? Who is a business owner? The cash flow quadrant defines who a business owner, according to Robert Kiyosaki. There are 4 ways to produce income. We started off as staff physical therapists here. We were employees, we had a job. We exchanged our time for money, right? We decided, hey, I can do that and make more money. I can open up a clinic, do what I want to do, treat patients. Became self-employed, which changed from you have a job to now you just own the job and everything about it. And all the expenses.
Is that the way around?
That's right. And the amount of time we put into it still determines our outcome, our cash flow. A business owner is someone whose income does not depend on their active work. they rely on people and they rely on the systems to generate income. The people work with you. The ultimate goal is to get down here where you're the investor. You own investments. And again, it's not dependent upon your active work, but your money continues to work for you independent of you. Passive, that's the goal, right? Who doesn't want passive income? You don't want passive income? If you don't want passive income, just get out. But we want to move from S to B, right? That's our goal. We want to be business owners. We think we're business owners because we hung a shingle. Well, that's not being a business owner, right? You just own the job now, and you have to clock in, and your schedule is dependent upon the patients. Hey, you're the owner of the company. You have everything on your plate, but will you sacrifice your family's time and treat this patient who can only come in at 6 o'clock at night and stay an extra hour and a half to treat them? Well, how many of us have usually said yes? And did we get paid any more for it? Did we get a trophy for being a great physical therapist? No. No.
But the patient love you.
And the patient might even love you. They get you cookies. But maybe it sacrificed their family time. How many physical therapists are out there that are 60 and 70 years old, still treating full time? There aren't that many that are that old, still treating full-time patients. I mean, you see orthopedic surgeons, doctors, dentists, they're still doing all the work because they love it. But in our industry, burnout's a real thing. They're leaving in droves because they're disenchanted, right? And it's because we as owners aren't respectful of our time, and that's not respectful of others' time as well. Will, did you bring it up about being, our time is sacred, right? That was the first thing, priority. Our time is sacred. Our time really matters a lot when other people are dependent upon us to make the decisions, right? We have to keep our time sacred. So maybe you feel like this. I know I did when Dimi asked the question. He's like, "Who's a business owner?" I shot my hand up. And then he's like, "Well, here's the definition of business owner." I'm like, "Oh, maybe I'm not a business owner. Maybe I'm just self-employed." Right? So what's keeping us from moving from S to B? I'll ask some questions. I'll ask you guys. What's keeping us from moving from self-employed to business owner? What are some of the hurdles? People around us, right? Sure. What else?
All the patients only want him.
All the patients only want him.
Yep. Oh.
Whose fault is it?
Is.
Yes. Good. I'm glad you noticed it.
In healthcare, I think that's a real mindset. That's like everyone has to go through that adaptation. I thought for me, I thought the same thing for me. Nathan thought the same thing in his world as well. That like in my world, my patients wanted me more than anyone. They would request me. They only demand me. When I made my team the priority and moved into focusing on them full time, they didn't miss me. Like, and
maybe for a couple weeks.
Yeah, well.
But after a while, they're just like, "Oh, I don't see Will anymore."
Yeah,
Okay.
and they still want to touch on Facebook, but here's what's funny is that like when they get, all patients want is to get better with someone who loves them. So if we can focus full time on our team, and that team can take care of them, then it becomes more than me. It becomes something else, right? And that's really special. But here's the thing: I had to recognize, Nathan, is that I had to recognize that I was afraid of who I was going to be when I didn't get the brownies, and I didn't get because I liked being needed. If I was being really honest with myself, it's called codependency, which is what I don't totally understand. But the same happens with our teams. When we have to let the teams take over, we sabotage ourselves from letting them totally take over down the road to the next position. But right now, it's the patient.
You know, one of the partners who's not here, Scott Paskowitz, who shared with me a couple weeks ago, really disenchanted with patient care, I guess. And I know I'm speaking for him and maybe he's listening, but Scott said, "Listen, I think I'm a really good therapist. I've got a lot of training. I've been practicing for 15 plus years. I know my way around the body and I have the answers. But when I hire a physical therapist and train them up a little bit, and so they have a year, maybe less, in treating patients, and she's getting 90% of the results that I'm getting, and patients are asking for her instead of me. Like, why am I wasting my time and effort, right, on seeing the patients when we can train up and we have a lot of knowledge? We can send them to the same content courses. We can train them up to be as good, if not better than us. And if isn't 90% of us good enough most of the time, right? Probably gets close, if not the same results in patients
What
too.
about with the PTA again? That is more
Oh,
humiliating for you.
it wasn't. Yeah, for me, here's the thing I learned from Stacy Soul, my PTA. She brought an energy, and she brought a love and a caring to her care. She would admit she's not the best PTA. The patients loved her.
Yep.
I knew Will was going to be successful when I hired him a long time. How many years ago? I hired him a long time ago. I didn't know what his skill set was, but I knew Will was going to be successful. We have to recognize that it's not our technical skills that make us successful. It's the soft skills. And that's what we're looking for in our PTs that are going to be successful. We can do an aptitude test, right? And those are important. But if they don't know how to connect with people, if they don't know how to problem solve on their feet, right, they're not going to get anywhere. Right? And so, hopefully I'm not throwing you under the bus, but I will remember Will sharing me an experience. He was treating a patient, and you had an experienced McKenzie trained certified therapist come on, curing backs left and right, right? He came on, and one of the patients, and you referred one of your patients over to him back then. 2 weeks later, that patient gets back on your schedule. And this is how I remember the story. You said, "Why are you coming back to see me? Or you're getting better, right?" It's like, "Yeah, the guy did great." He's like, "Why are you coming back to see me?" "Yeah, because I missed you, man. He's like, "I like hanging out with you." That just told me sometimes the patients don't know what's good therapy. We think we've got all the answers, we've got all the letters behind our names. They don't know what that means. They still think we're massage therapists or confuse us for chiropractors. So I don't know how I got on the tangent. Sorry about that, but keeping us from moving from S to B. Limitations on time, because maybe we're treating full time. Maybe there's a limitation on money. Got to invest some money to make money. Maybe there's motivation's an issue or a lack thereof. Maybe you've gotten into a comfortable groove, right? I'm doing okay, making a profit, doing okay, lack of motivation. You mentioned team, right? Lack of quality candidates, whether hiring or on the current team. Maybe there's a fear. I've come across a few PT client owners who we talk about getting out of patient care, and they shudder just a little bit. They just, and it goes back to a fear. What am I going to do with my time if I'm not treating patients? I spent the last 25 years of my life and more now preparing for this moment to be a physical therapist and live out my purpose. Now you're telling me the road path to success is to discontinue doing what I've been doing for the past 30 years in order to achieve my goals. Well, I don't know what that looks like, right? I didn't go to a class for that. So there's a fear. You have to come to grips with your fear. When's the last time you enjoyed that hobby that you haven't enjoyed for 10 years since I'm here, right? Maybe you need to start a hobby. Well, otherwise, burnout's a real issue, right? Maybe there's a lack of know-how. How do I go from S to B? Well, we're all readers. E-Myth Revisited, Systematized Practice, it's grind work, right? Generating policy and procedures the NPT way. That's not fun stuff, but it's what you have to do. You have to make the systems. You have to make the systems. So one of those hurdles is lack of time. We're too busy. And this is where I'm going off a little bit because I think a lot of you guys are probably not treating too much at this time. But I love Tim Ferriss, follow his podcast, popular book, 4 Hour Work Week. This hit me like a ton of rocks. Is that the term? We all like to be busy. Busy's a badge. I'm busy. That means I'm important. Right? Tim kind of flipped it on its head. Being busy is just a form of laziness. Lazy thinking and indiscriminate action. Being overwhelmed is often as unproductive as doing nothing. And it is far more unpleasant, right? When you're acting throughout your day, doing admin tasks that aren't getting you anywhere, that's not fun. Being selective and doing less is the path of the productive. That's what I want to highlight. Being selective and doing less is the path of the productive. Simply being busy for the sake of being busy, yeah, that doesn't take any brain work. The brain work is who needs to do this for me? Who do I need to find? Who can I delegate? Did you have?
Real quick, I'm just adding something to that because I follow Jim Quick. He's just a really expert on like reading faster and like brain science. Do you know who he is?
No.
So anyhow, he talks about how you got to reframe how you talk to yourself. And he addresses the being busy. And he says, one of the things he talks about is you have to reframe your mind. And if you are always telling yourself that you're busy, you're just busy, well, then you find things to fill that definition instead of focusing on what you need to focus on, which is, obviously something different. So it's just reiterating.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nowadays, if someone's like, I'm super busy, I'm like, well, that sucks. I'm more impressed by the guy that says, I've got plenty of time. What do you want to do? What do you want to talk about? I'm here to help. I want to be that dude, right? That's where I'm at. What's the solution? He shares a couple of things. Focus on the important few, ignore the rest. Some of the things, if you go on vacation for a week, you forget about a ton of stuff that was on your to-do list, right? And you come back and you think, what was I supposed to do again? Maybe it wasn't that important. Maybe it wasn't that urgent. The bigger rocks tend to stay there and the sand filters away when you do an exercise like that. So the best solution is to identify the few critical tasks that contribute most to your income. If I were to tell you, okay, I want you to swap, I'll make you a deal. I take your PT business off your hands. I will give you a business that generates millions of dollars with a 30% profit margin compared to what you have now. Would you take it? Is that a yes or is silent acceptance? Okay, yes. Yes, you would. It does depend. It does depend, right? But what if that solution, that $1 million generating company with a 30% profit margin was simply focusing on diagnostics instead of your PT business? It's hard to consider because PT is the bread and butter, right? It's been coming home with the bacon for years and years and years. But Demi can testify as to the revenues and the profit margins that he can get from a solely diagnostics business, right? Margins are better, revenues are greater, work less. Some solutions to time constraints, prioritize. One of my favorite books is Gary Keller's The One Thing. Anyone read it? Yep, love it. The people who achieve extraordinary results don't achieve them by working more hours. They achieve them by getting more done in the hours they work. And he goes so far as to say, ask yourself this one question every day. He was you listened to his story. He had an interview with Tim Ferriss. He was great. I loved it. Listen to it over and over again. What is the one thing I can do in this minute, in this hour, in this day, with my wife, and my team, for my business, with my kids? What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? Love languages. Everyone knows their love languages.
Yes.
My wife is a words of affirmation. Guess what my weakness is? I think most men are like that.
Yeah.
Talking. Just let me go in my cave. Shut up. I'm good. However, I know if I do that one thing in my relationship for my wife, everything else becomes easier or completely unnecessary. So I have a reminder on my phone every day at noon, compliment Whitney. Right? So the mindset being, until my one thing is done, everything else is a distraction. To the point where he figured out in his business, in order to grow, they figured out his one thing was that he needed to make a best-selling book. So he delegated everything else to his leadership team so that he could write his book and generate, ultimately was a bestseller and generate business. This is the one thing. So as we go into our businesses, I bring up love languages because what is our business's love language from us as owners? What does the business need from us? What love language would you attribute to our business?
What part of the business? The old business or the new business?
Your diagnostics business. We're talking about diagnostics.
Yeah.
What does your diagnostics business need from you? What's its love language?
Prioritize. I love you.
Time. I would say time.
Time.
Quality time. Quality time. Not indiscriminate amounts of time. Quality time, right? Know your business's love language. Because once you do, everything else becomes easier or necessary. Right. So consider, what are some of the one things that will net you more time and more money? Is there a vendor? Is there a person? Is there a thing? Right? Working on your systems saves a lot of time and money down the road. It sucks in the moment, maybe get painful, but one of my podcast listeners and one of Will's clients spent the first 3 years of opening his business focusing on generating policies and procedures and honing them in to the point when the pandemic hit, he stopped treating. He hasn't had to treat anymore, doesn't even go to the office every day anymore. Goes in occasionally just to see what's going on because everything's running by systems, right? And then the other part, remember the quadrant, it didn't say systems, it had people, right? So those people are running the systems, finding the right people to run the systems, finding the people and the vendors to run their own systems, right? Opening up a clinic is really hard to do. It takes a lot of energy. So if people are starting a clinic, I send them to Will. Like, you don't want to focus on billing and collections when you're starting a business. Let someone else do that who is an expert to maintain your cash flow. Find the right vendors, right? I love this one. James Wedmore, Mind Your Business podcast. When you value your time more than money, you'll have more both. When you value your time more than money, really hard to get over for PTs because it's easy for us to make the connection. I see this patient, I get this much money. I see the patient, I get this much money. And to step out of that and say, I'm not treating patients anymore, and that's going to increase my income down the road. It's not an easier, that's a harder correlation to make, right?
Nathan, just to expand on that, I remember something that Dean said years ago at another conference that we had. What he talked about was you have to take your entire diagnostic business's GI and divide that.
Gross income?
So you have to take your entire diagnostic business gross income, divide it by 2080, which is how many working hours there are in a year, and that is what your time is worth.
Yeah.
So when you start then differentiating, okay, as the CEO, this is what my time is worth versus.
Yeah, the company
as
generates $500,000.
as a
Your time is worth $250 an hour.
Right, versus being, I'm gonna treat this patient, I'm gonna get paid 75 to 100. Where is my time more valuable?
Yes.
You know, we all think I gotta treat those patients to get that revenue, but that's not where you are most effective.
Exactly. Cool. When we get more time, we get more freedom, we get some brain space, we can get excited. This was back when Will had a mustache. you guys, I saw this GIF and I was like, I have to put it in there. And my wife's like, I don't know if it's appropriate. I'm like, I know, but I have to. Oh yeah, this is Bart's doctor. What does your doctor look like? All right, so another one, and I'm not sure this is really an issue. I don't know if lack of money is our issue. We're successful PT owners, I believe. I don't know your money situations, but this is where Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy wrote Who Not How. Dan Sullivan, international business coach, wanted to write a book about his concepts, hired Benjamin Hardy, a bestseller, and said, hey, I want to write a book. I don't want to write it, right? Let's bill. I'll own a billing company. I don't want to send a single claim out. That's where I am. I'll open up another PT clinic, but I'm not seeing anybody. And I'm not the fallback PT either when they go on vacation, right? And I know a lot of you guys are there already, but they say the freedom of money occurs as you direct your time and attention toward higher impact activities. 80-20 rule, everyone knows the 80-20 rule. 20% of our activities generate 80% of our revenue. You can have way more money if you commit to having more money. You do that by investing in who's, right? You invest in who's to relieve your previous attention from so many tasks, allowing you to place your attention and energies in places that will directly increase revenue. So when you're taking admin time away from treating patients, your focus is on strategy, like who do I need to find to see more EMG patients? What channel do I this is what Demi is doing right now. I'll use Facebook ads, I'll use Google ads, I'll use Neil Trickett. He's finding a who. I'll find the who's. And as some show brighter than others, I'll eliminate the others. Yeah.
So I was actually talking last night to Ron, and I think when I discovered that I was the who for our company, Dan, our owner, our VP of operations, and our VP of finance all went on a measurable solutions trip and left me in charge of the clinic for a week. And a lot of things happened. We ended up having to let someone go.
That usually happens. Yeah, that's typical.
Everyone, but it was interesting, and for business owners, for you guys, you don't notice who is working for you is capable of if you're continuing to be part of what they need to own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So them stepping away, and they looked at me and they said, "Oh, you just handled all this?" I was sweating the whole time, but yes, and if it's anything for you guys, the more responsibility you give someone towards something, the more it becomes theirs.
Yes.
And the less that you are involved in that,
yes,
even more it becomes theirs.
They give them the responsibility for owning the solution, for generating the product. They're responsible for that. You're not anymore, or Dan's not. You're responsible for it, right? Do whatever you gotta do, work your schedule, I don't care. As long as we're getting that product, go, right? So find your who's. Does your who have to be, and this isn't related to this, does your who have to be a physical therapist for your diagnostics business to manage it, to run it? Like, it sounds like you've got a tech who might be at a dead end. Can't get into PT school, but he's awesome, isn't he? Anyone know Vinod? Vinod Somareddy? Lives here nearby, owns a very successful practice in New York. Didn't step foot in his practices for years, right? His #1 guy that runs the entire clinic started at the front desk, not a PT, doesn't know how to treat patients, worked his way up. He found his who, and the guy runs it so that Vinod can be down here. Doesn't have to be a PT. Stacy Sullivan, best marketer we had, right? She's a PTA. Probably one of the better clinic directors we ever had, PTA, right? We have examples of success of who's here. Jennifer, Edric in medical practice. I consider him a success. He was your who, right? How do I get more EMGs? Well, I found a vendor to do that, right? Your who's are also limiting you. I would tell you the who that's limiting you the most is you. and you got to get out, you got to find someone else. If your business is successful with you doing the diagnostics, you know what your next step is, and that is to find the next two. Who do I pass it on? If your diagnostics is not successful, and it's you, well, you're the issue. Right? And honestly, you got to find a way. You got to find a different who. If you're procrastinating on getting things done, well, that's wisdom telling you that's not my strength. That's not what I'm excited about. That doesn't fulfill my purpose. Find the next two who has a purpose that's in line with that. You are the limiting factor. I hope you guys understand that in your businesses. Find someone else. So what will get you more money? Hint, not personally treating more patients. Finding empower other people to work the systems moves you from S to B, right? Find the people, create the systems. Yeah, well.
I just want to say real quickly, sometimes, I think to your point, sometimes finding the who is if you don't even know how you're messing things up. What was big for me and Nathan was coaching. Nathan and I can think about it, we're both in coaching capacities regardless of the way it's organized. And I can tell you that finding the right coach, so we mentioned Craig Vieira's business, that's what that is, it's a consulting firm. But every successful entrepreneur has a network, and they've got a coach. I have one now, Nathan has one now. Like, it's something that's very important, and Nathan is taking clients. Like, I'm not trying to promote you, but I'm trying to promote the idea that like, you'd be amazing to figure that stuff out, right? Like, just, so we don't oftentimes know how we're in our own way, and we take accountability, sometimes finding right who and understanding how we're limiting ourselves comes from having someone hold a mirror to us. And that is an essential part of our journey.
That's right. I think so you guys might have seen, of course, I have my next GIF here. Oh, why isn't it going now? Never mind. And maybe you're a little bit lost. You might be feeling like, you know, I was thinking of something else. So what's a possible bigger? So the bigger hurdle, I think, might be for us a lack of clarity. Here's the thing I've recognized in the last 2 days. HODS is really clear about the purpose. They are elevating, I wrote it down, this is my words for it. HODS' purpose is to elevate the clinical competency of the profession, benefiting PTs, owners, MDs, and patients. Those are my words for it, but I think it's pretty good, right? There's a clarity behind this. That's what we could buy into. We bought into that because it was a clear, distinct vision, the clear, distinct purpose, I'm sorry. And they live out their purpose for elevating clinical competency, not only seen in diagnostic sphere, but in continuing education sphere. That's why they do it in hands-on seminars, right? So I think a lot of our issues stem from lack of clarity. So going back, what do you want from your diagnostics business and why? It's a tough question. It takes some time. Usually it's a little bit more general, yet inspiring. You know, Ron?
Yeah, for purpose, we did this exercise with our leadership team, and it's if you're having trouble with it or you think it's too narrow and you really want to step back and broaden your purpose, just if you keep asking why, so say my purpose is to provide a clinic that does the best manual therapy, whatever you
Sure.
can. Why? Well, because I want to help more people. Okay, why? And by the time I got to the end of it, it was like, because mankind deserves.
That's okay.
You want to elevate.
Yes.
Keep
Yes.
asking why. Till you get to
Yes.
something that makes the hair stand up on your arm.
Yeah. And when you start living that out, you start generating a culture. It takes time. Purpose followed with values. You know, this is why we do it, and this is how we do it. And you live that. Now you're generating a culture that starts to create itself. We had people working for us who were like, I know I can make some more money somewhere else. I don't see myself leaving though. I love working at Rise. I'll always be a riser, right? And we have that. So why? When we're not clear on what we want and why, then it affects us. We're not clear. Our actions become indiscriminate and our results will suffer. You'll see that in your diagnostics business if you're not clear about it. Your results will suffer. Our teams are affected by our lack of clarity, obviously. Our who's can't see the vision and can't see their role in the vision. Therefore, they can't bring their available resources to the table. This again is from Who Not How. Their actions will also become indiscriminate and their results will tend to suffer. If we're not clear, they're just gonna wander indiscriminately, right? So what can help? I'm just sharing this really quick. This is from Who Not How. Come on, keep coming. Why am I not going to the next slide? Sorry. What did I do wrong? Why isn't it's not in the presentation mode anymore? So impact filter by Dan Sullivan. Look it up on Google. Yeah, this link is there. Research strategic coach is Dan Sullivan's. This is a one-page impact filter. It helped me a lot recently. So first is, what is the project? What is the purpose? It's going to ask you what the why is. What is the important? What is the impact of this thing that this project that you have? What's the impact of diagnostics and what's the ideal income? What does it look like and what's the payoff? And then you have to sell yourself. Okay, what's the best result that can come from this project? Sell yourself on it. Look, pie in the sky, ideal scene. What is the worst result? Usually the worst result is regret, that you didn't do enough, that you didn't push it as far as you could. But what's the worst result, right? Know it, be open to it. But then it talks about what is the success criteria? What results must be true for this to be successful? And then you give the success criteria to your who's and they own it. I don't know if Dan went fully through this with you, Jennifer, but he probably said, you know what, I'm going to give you this diagnostics business, but it's got to be profitable. I mean, I'm sure that maybe that was just understood. But I know without him saying anything, he said, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I want to go see U2 in concert 5 times a year. And I want to travel to, 6 times a year. I want to travel to Park City on a ski trip every year, and I don't want to have anything to do with diagnostics. Go. That's what it has to look like. Then you let them own that. These are the successful criteria, and they'll take you down here. These are the things I need to have done to know that this is a success, right? And then you give that to someone else. You let them own that. And make them responsible for it. Then you become like this. Anyone watch Schitt's Creek? I love her. So foundations for success require clarity of purpose, clarity of the results, right? Prioritizing your time, invest in who's, right? Might require some time and money. Prioritize your time so that you're moving from S to B and know how you're doing it. And then the challenge is use the impact filter. What do you really want to get out of diagnostics? What do you need to change to make diagnostic goals come true? And find your who's to take the next step, right? That's the end of my presentation, but I love these GIFs. So these are my outtakes. These are the ones that I initially had. In my presentation. I took them out. So I figured that outtakes are always really popular, right? This one, Sweet George Brown, always love that. Hopefully the presentation is not like this. Cohen's my favorite. So, all right, thank you. Yeah, I didn't take any questions or anything. If there are any questions, go ahead. Anything? Good. Silence is acceptance.
All right, good. So what we talked about, I promised to you, I'm reviewing that I talked about yesterday about 5 very specific goals for 2021, 2022 for you guys, which is your business expansion, your clinical competence, your financial affluence, your corporate foundation, and your stable staffing. And I think that a lot of the presentations addressed these over the past 2 days, and specifically on yesterday, I talked about strategy, we talked about branding and marketing, we touched upon delivery, and now we're going to talk about finances and profit. And I'm going to go over a little bit of reverse engineering in terms of creating financial freedom using as vehicle your diagnostic testing practice. And I want to tell you that I am going to make references in this presentation of 3 different books. And these 3 different books, a summary for each, we have uploaded in the system with your QR code under Dimi's presentation, under the words, HUD's reference, and then the name of the book. The 3 books I'm going to be referring to is Unshakable by Tony Robbins. I'm going to be referring to Profit First, Mike Michalowicz, and I'm going to be referring to, well, I'm going to make some references also to The Pumpkin Plan, again by Mike Michalowicz, which I'm in the middle of doing right now. And the third one is going to be, the Money Makeover. Yeah, I uploaded the Money Makeover also, Dave Ramsey's. So now, here is the thing, right? We talked about books and reading and stuff like that. There is an incredible service called Reading Graphics. I'm gonna write it for you here, called readinggraphics.com. Now, what's great about this service is that they take a book and they deliver to you 3 different things. They deliver to you a book summary of several pages instead of having to do the whole book. The second thing they do is they deliver to you that summary in the form of audio, in the form of text, in the form of audio, and then they create an actual graphical representation, and 1-page graphical representation of the content of the book. This is great because you can do a couple of books a week like this in the car, looking at the summary, and it's great. So I'm recommending that service. The first thing I want to talk about is put some definitions here in perspective. Our objective will be to define 3 levels of financial success, to identify the real numbers about them, to discuss problem solving on reimbursement, and to do a reverse engineering on how to achieve financial freedom through your diagnostic business in 10 years or less. All right, so now 10 years, yes, 10 years, because what I'm gonna talk about, it does not have to do with putting on the side $100,000 and $200,000. It will mean that we have to put on the side several $1 million each of us, and we will define specifically how many of these millions of dollars we're going to put on the side, okay? So, but don't worry about it. It's all doable. You'll see it's much easier than what you think, so, or what it appears. So let me start first with 3 definitions. Definition of financial security, financial independence, and financial freedom. So definition of financial security is to have enough passive income that covers your basic living expenses. All right, the bare minimum expenses that are, whether you have to pay a big mortgage or you have a smaller mortgage or a rent or insurance or very basic expenses. Then when it comes to financial independence will be defined as the income, the passive income that will cover your current financial style. In other words, whatever money you are making right now, if you were not working, all right? Making it passively. And finally, financial freedom is income that will cover your ideal lifestyle. Of course, if your current lifestyle is your ideal lifestyle, then that will be passive income that can cover that. Okay, so now, what is financial security? Financial security will cover your mortgage or rent, food, utilities, transportation, basic insurance, and basic clothing. It doesn't mean you are going to get Gucci's here and Ralph Lauren and all that stuff. So I'm going to give you an example of that, and I want you to turn to the appropriate page there, and using this example, I want you guys to come up with these numbers. Let's take, for example, Miss Piggy, and Miss Piggy is having a mortgage or a rent of $3,000 a month. That includes real estate taxes, if she pays taxes. Then for food, she pays $1,000 a month, utilities $500, transportation $1,000, basic insurance another $1,000 a month, clothing $500. So she has a monthly total of $7,000 a month, which annualized means $84,000 per year. Okay, and these are pretty realistic numbers, I would say. Maybe some variations, but can you very quickly, in a workshop format, put down in that piece of paper you have a form on page 3. If you would just put this down, what does this mean for you individually? All right, this is for you to see, but no, this is personal. This is totally personal. It has nothing to do with the business. This is totally personal, that you have a home. Do you pay, if you own the home and you pay only real estate taxes, that's the amount you're going to put. If you still paying mortgage, you're going to include that. If you are eating only potato chips for the whole month, you're going to put, $50. The people who are watching from online, they do have this information. We're showing you right now where this information is. It's the little workbook, and it is on page 3, this exercise, and you have to do that. So once you come up with a monthly total, just multiply that by 12, and that will give you the annual total amount that you will need for that. Now, many of you have financial coaches, financial advisors, and you have figured out already these numbers. I'm just doing a quick exercise here just to give you a little bit an idea from a reverse engineering point of view, how you are going to end up calculating really production that will be required for you to reach some of these numbers. All right, so you got that. Awesome. So now this is very easy, because right now you know how much money you are spending every month to sustain your current lifestyle. So you put that monthly amount and you multiply it by 12, and it will give you the annual amount of money that you need to sustain your current lifestyle. For example, Miss Piggy here, okay, she's got a little jewelry also here or something. So she spends $12,000 a month between everything she does. she's got an expensive taste. What can we do? So that would be $144,000 a year. That includes taxes, by the way. So write down what is the monthly amount of money that you need, that you are spending right now to sustain your current lifestyle, and multiply that by 12 to get an annualized number.
The current lifestyle? or just-
Current.
just to get by?
No, current.
Include a lot of stuff.
Current lifestyle, I'd say. Unless you are living your financial freedom style right now.
Yeah, so this is like bare bones, this gets us by.
Bare bones was the previous one. Bare bones was this.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sorry. Bare bones was this, financial security.
Okay.
Right now, we are at financial independence, where you put current lifestyle last year or the year before.
Oh, okay.
All right, then finally, now I want you guys to look at financial freedom. Let's calculate the monthly and annual total by adding some luxuries. Okay, so for example, Miss Piggy here, she has a vacation home for which she spends $3,000 a month. She does an extravagant trip where she spends $3,000 a month for that, because her extravagant trip costs $36,000 for the year. And she gives gifts of $2,000 per month to someone. So she's got here $8,000 a month for the luxury lifestyle, plus $12,000 a month from the current lifestyle. That makes it $20,000 a month.
Question from Andy, whether we add the tuition, college expense or not?
Well, college expense and tuition would be something that will go to financial independence, not to financial freedom, because that is something he is spending it now anyway. So then you come up that in order for you to have financial freedom, which means to sustain your current lifestyle plus several luxuries that you want to have, you need X amount of money to come passively in your pocket every month. You get that? Any questions in this room for any of this?
So are these top luxury, these are per month?
These are per month, yes. Yeah, I mean, she has a very expensive stay. She has a vacation home, very nice waterfront property. She spends $33,000 a month. She does these trips. I don't know. She does she's putting money out to do space travel or something. She gives gifts, jewelry. I mean, look at her here. Look, she is. She's really having fun. So in this case, she needs almost $250,000 a year in passive income, in her case, so Miss Piggy can have financial freedom. All right. Did you guys calculate that? All right. So now that you have these numbers, we're going to do some math. So here I'm going to give you some math right now. In the first column, we put the amount, the annual amount that is required to have financial security or financial independence or financial freedom. Miss Piggy needs $84,000 a year for financial security, $144,000 for independence, and $240,000 for financial freedom to come to her pocket every year. Now, if we assume a 10% annual return, and I'll tell you a little bit about this 10%. Some of you may think it's a little bit too much, but I'll explain to you why I'm using 10% annual return. All Ms. Figge has to do is multiply the annual number of financial security times 10 to derive to the number that she needs to put in some investment that with a 10% annual return, she'll be able to get passive income of the amount of money she needs every year. So $84,000 times 10 is $840,000. 144, she needs 1.4 million. And for financial freedom, she needs $2.4 million to put in some investment vehicle that with a 10% return per year, she will be able to get $240,000 passive income to afford her a lifestyle of financial freedom. Do you guys get this so far? Good. Now, Ms. Figge has a diagnostic testing practice. That's what she has. And what happens is she has average revenue per test, $225. So if you divide how much money she needs to put on the side by 225, but hold on a moment, you're not going to divide that. You're going to divide her actual profit. Ms. Figge, out of 225, she only makes $80 per test clear profit. She has a profit margin somewhere between 35 to 40%. The rest of the 225, she pays expenses. You follow me? So in other words, what is clean in the bank for her after all expenses are paid is $80. So if you go now and divide $840,000 that she needs to have in that investment by $80, which is her profit, it gives you that she needs to do 10,500 tests in total for her to make the $840,000. But let's say, are these tests so many? Well, she needs 87 tests per month. Okay? For a period of 120 months. That's 10 years. This is a 10-year plan. Now, guys, because this may seem too much or unreal, what I'm talking about is that how many patients do you need to see to produce 87 tests a month, or 150 tests a month, or 250 tests a month for financial freedom for $2.4 million based on this profit margin? Not that much, actually. You need to do 9 patients per week, or 15 patients per week, or 26 patients per week to produce for you these numbers. Because 9 patients a week, based on some assumptions that I'm going to show you right now what these assumptions are, will produce for you all of these tests that are needed. And I'll show you what is the reason that right now you are not achieving these numbers. Before you calculate your own numbers, let me put some assumptions there. What are my assumptions? I talked to you about a 10% return, okay? How did I come up with this 10% return? If you take any type of investment and you put it in an index, either total stock market fund or an S&P 500 index fund with really fees that are 0.0 to 0.03% that most financial firms charge, that will be able to produce for you 10 to 11% annual return. This is the annual return of the S&P 500 that has taken place from 1926 until the year 2022. So in these calculations, I used a 10% return, and also I was not 100% interested on capital preservation forever and ever. So at some point, if the capital had to go a little bit lower, because some years the index went a little bit lower, then you used some of that money. But then when the index went much, much higher, you made up for that difference. And of course, none of this calculates or takes into account your exit strategy. None of this takes into account that at some point in time, you're going to sell your diagnostic business to someone. You're going to have some sort of exit strategy. Or even, I don't know, if you decide never to sell, but have others work the business for you, well, that's your exit strategy. But somehow you will have, in addition to the revenue, to the money that you will be able to put on the side, you will receive some proceeds from your exit strategy of the diagnostic business. You follow me? Okay. So let me explain to you this $225 per test assumption. This includes first in-house business, and it includes EMG, nerve conduction, musculoskeletal ultrasound, neuro ultrasound, SSCPs, VEPs, buyers, and occasional BMGs and ANS. It includes insurance payments, averages, self-pay averages, any type of payments from patients, and it includes all denials. It includes everything that is unpaid and still in the process to be paid or being appealed, and so on and so forth. It also includes outside business that charges $210 per EMG test, $85 per ultrasound test, $135 per SSCP, $135 per VEP together with buyers. It also includes flat daily rates in various facilities with a minimum of $1,350 for the day to a maximum of $2,000 for the day with one associate in that facility. Along this, it takes into account that in reality, it's 2.3 tests per patient or 2 tests per hour, 16 tests in an 8-hour day. It takes into account an anticipated daily revenue per physical therapist of $3,600. You get this assumption here? Okay. So, but why am I not getting that much of money? Why am I not getting paid that much? Right, let's see what is some of these reasons why you're not getting paid that much or making that much. There is not enough production. You are not doing all types of tests. And yes, it is not all about only EMG or joint ultrasound. Okay, so most common mistake is not performing neuro MSK. How many of you here are not doing at all neuro MSK? Raise your hand. Okay, you see? How many of you, raise your hand if you are doing neuro MSK in 90% or more of the EMGs that you are doing? Awesome. Only then. and I. Okay? It's very rare that we are not going to do a neuro MSK test in our practice. Yes.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
So mistakes, as I said, is not doing enough neuro MSK, not doing proper clinical and insurance screening, EMG nerve conduction studies with neuro MSK 35%, and you guys are not doing really SSCP, BP, and BIOS. 75% of your practice should be receiving something like EMG nerve conduction, MSK joint, MSK or neuro MSK. 35% of your practice should be receiving EMG with neuro MSK. 15% of your practice should be receiving SSCP, BP, and BIOS. Solution for this: get training, you and your staff in all tests. Use the assessment tool and guide in terms of what tests to refer in order to do all proper testing. Pay particular attention to neuro MSK and restudy the materials you have on 7 steps for a successful EMG MSK US implementation. You got that? Okay, so not billing enough nerves or units. Mrs. Piggy's practice is doing the following. 35% of her EMGs are billing code 95913. 35% of the time she's doing 13 or more nerves. 20% of the time she's doing 95912. 18% of the time 95911. 25% of the time 95910. And only 2% of the time 95909. This is 13 or more nerves. This is 11 to 12. This is 9 to 10. This is 8 to 9. This is 6 or 7. Solution: pay attention to codes billed. Study the billing percentages I provided here. Do not miss opportunities for studies. Do not engage in overbilling, but please do not engage in underbilling, because this is what you are doing mostly. You're engaging in underbilling. You can justify really the number of nerves if you do a thorough examination and thorough interview from the patient. Why am I not getting that much? Doing neuro MSK consistently, MSK US units and codes. Mrs. Piggy's practice, she's doing 55% 2 units of 76881. She's doing 20% of the time 1 unit of 76881. She's doing about only very little, what is this, 3% of 2 units of 76885, which is the lesser code, not 768, I'm sorry, I mean 76882, not 76885. This is a mistake. 76882. 1 unit of 76882, very little, and about 20% Medicare 97750. But look how many studies are done like that. Solutions: understand the clinical need and importance of neuro MSK, get clarity on numbers and units, make it a habit to do neuro MSK along with EMG as appropriate. Why am I not getting that much? Not only not enough production and not enough tests, but improper insurance selection, pumpkin plan theory. You'll find a whole thing on franchise software, me talking about this, but I'm gonna do a quick summary right now. Okay, all you need to do when you start doing HUDs, you need to bill every single insurance one time at least, or 2 times, for every single test that you are doing. You come and you learn SSCPs. When you go back, you do billing for every single insurance for SSCPs. Why? Even if you're gonna find which insurance pays and what insurance does not pay. The insurance that does not pay, now that you have done at least once or twice, you have a denial and a reason for a denial. Without getting that denial, you can't go to the insurance to fight it. You need that denial to go fight it. Okay? But meanwhile, now that I got that Blue Cross Blue Shield is not paying me for this, I cannot keep investing in the tiny or sick pumpkins. These are tiny and sick. They don't pay enough or they don't pay at all. So what do? I have to devise another strategy now. What's the strategy? Number one, I go through my appeals process to reverse this. I convert these patients, if possible, to cash paying patients for the test. So at least I receive cash for the service. And 3, and most importantly, I pay attention and I do a lot more of my big, healthy pumpkins. I pay attention to the insurances that they pay, those that they pay the maximum. One of the most successful actions that really changed our average reimbursement, even in our physical therapy business, was the classification of the insurances to what we call tier A insurance or tier B. Then we put a number, which was for us that every insurance above that number is tier A, every insurance below that number is tier B. The mere fact that we made the classification started automatically, the universe in the practice started putting more attention to tier A patients and getting through marketing more patients of those doctors and those insurances that they paid higher. Our average reimbursement per visit increased substantially because of that reason. Yes?
There's a lot of power in that. Your marketing message changed. The people who would have tier A insurance, right?
Absolutely. And our marketing person would go visit more these doctors and more attention to those doctors who were sending more TRA.
So you're marketing to the patients, you're marketing to physicians focused on TRA.
Absolutely.
When you say that number, that's your reimbursement per visit average? Number?
Yeah.
You paid for that number?
We picked that number and then we.
And I'm assuming that that number was covering your expenses plus a defined profit margin that you. So coming up with that number was a calculation of your expenses per visit plus the expected profit margin per visit. On top of that, that was your number.
Yeah.
And then so now you're focusing on those tier A's that over that.
Yeah. Listen, guys, in New York State, those of you who are in New York State, you do know that our colleagues in New York State, they have average reimbursement right now, some downstate, somewhere around $65 to $7 per visit, and upstate average reimbursement is somewhere around in the $55, $60, if not less. That excludes Janine's practice. Okay, so because of this selection we have been doing, we are receiving, without including diagnostic testing, our average reimbursement is $85 to $90. You are up on those numbers, and you are in the high 70s, 80s or something, which is unheard of for upstate or downstate numbers. I mean, our numbers are much better than what the average is out there because of that classification. So pay attention to those big pumpkins then, right? Oh, those are not the pumpkins. These are the pumpkins. All right? So, yeah. So when you start with billing insurance 1 to 3 claims, continue large pumpkins, stop doing the flat rate or denial cases and convert them to cash paying, follow appeal sequence, and other ideas of reversing the low flat rate and denials. All right, so why am I not getting that much? Limiting service to only in-house testing and missing opportunities for outside testing. Outside testing provides many opportunities for diversification. Guys, you really need to do volume. You really need to do volume. I'll tell you something. I mean, our EMG business, our diagnostic business generates a few $1 million a year, okay? But I heard that let's do $100,000, whatever. It didn't take us many years to reach that level. It took a few years, but it didn't take decades over decades to reach those levels. It was really disciplined work and focus on just following this model, the model of doing not only in-house business, but outside business. It's very important. What we are doing right now, 50%, our in-house business, by the definition, our physical therapy office producing diagnostic testing is only 15% of our entire business. 50% of our business is satellite in-house business. What is that? These are facilities that we go, we pay rent, and we accredit that facility as our facility. We file with Medicare, we file with the insurance companies as an add-on facility, and we rent that space for once a week, once a month, twice a month, whatever, or 5 days a week or something, depending on what the ability for referrals is. And that makes up 50% of our business, and we do the billing here. And 35%, it is pure outside business where somebody else does the billing, and we just charge them a fee for service.
Do you find that when somebody else does the billing, because it's usually a physician, that they get paid easier?
Okay, it depends. The question was if a physician does the billing, if he will get paid easier. If they get paid easier. I would say in our situation, it's about the same. Maybe there are a couple of differences. For example, a couple of insurance, like there is one specific insurance that requires authorization from us to do diagnostic ultrasound. From the physician, they don't. But not too much of a difference, really. But a little bit of difference, but not too much. This, of course, this would make more sense, even more sense, if you are not board certified, because under the supervision of the physician, you can get, or the nurse practitioner, or you can get, the full reimbursement. Okay. However, remember, and I hope you guys have gotten the point we communicated, until the end of 2021, HUDs can help you get full reimbursement from EMGs because the federal government and CMS has allowed remote supervision by a board certified therapist. What do I mean by that? And we have a whole program. James can give you the program. What it costs you, what you will do, how you will engage into that. Let's say Dr. John Lugo, let's say he is licensed or he obtains a license, let's say at the state of California, and you are not board certified at the state of California to bill Medicare. If John Lugo was inside your practice, watching you doing testing, you could bill Medicare under his supervision, under his NPI number, and get full reimbursement. Now, the Centers for Medicare Services said this: because of COVID, Dr. Lugo doesn't have to be inside your practice. He can be in another state, in front of his computer, watching you doing the testing, and still you can bill under his name, under his NPI number. Okay? So we have this ability, you have this availability at least until the end of 2021. Maybe the administration will decide to continue it beyond that. And I think it's highly likely that it may continue at least for another year. Yes.
Doing the outside test seems like a solution to those insurances that won't reimburse you as a physical therapist for doing EMGs, right? And that's where we got the benefit by finding a provider that would bill for us.
Yes.
We had to give them a cut for their, we got the flat rate.
Yes.
Like you're talking about, but that was our way of billing those insurance and seeing those patients.
That's right, which you could not, let's say, otherwise.
Yeah, so coordinate with a physician that is contracted with that insurance. And we're billed for it.
And another thing is that in those Medicare jurisdictions, which is unfortunately most of them, that still Medicare is not paying for the code 76881, but they pay only for 97750. Engaging with a physician in that, the physician can get the full 76881 reimbursement. Yes, Tony.
Well, so say if a physician rented space from you or nurse practitioner, could it work that way, or I guess they'd have to be on site?
No, I mean, if they rent it from you, and inside their physical space now that they rented, you provided services. Yeah, I mean, okay, and they paid you for those services. I don't see a problem with that. All right. Okay, so what do you need? What are solutions for this? Okay, solutions are, please attend the HUDS Bootcamp course with emphasis on the marketing to physicians component and how to establish these businesses. We have a HUDS Bootcamp. It has 3 parts, HUDS Bootcamp 1, 2, and 3, and it covers the whole function of HUDS, out from establishment to everything. So we just did this, during COVID. We're gonna put a couple of them now for 2021. We'll give you guys dates. Discuss with the franchise services director about marketing to physicians. Restudy the materials on sequence of steps on marketing to physicians and other healthcare providers. In the franchise soft, we have a whole program like that. Identify any legal parameters that apply in your particular situation, establish in-house satellite business and outside businesses. So now, let me explain to you this 35 to 40% or $80 profit explained. Okay, and here I'm gonna utilize the profit first principle a little bit, okay? So the profit first principle is talking about what? The profit first principle says this. I'm gonna write it here for you. You have income, right? The regular accounting methods say income minus expenses equals profit. Minus expenses and expense of sale of goods. This is, let's say, for manufacturing companies and that they buy raw materials and stuff like that. Profit first says something else. It says income minus your profit, and on profit here includes minus sale of goods, equals expenses. So the concept here changes a little bit and put emphasis on you getting out profit from the business before even thinking about expenses. And what that does increases the level of your necessity to produce more so you can be able to pay the expenses. But that principle here also, if applied properly, allows a business to start being profitable very early on, as soon as it starts. So let's see how this will translate. Mrs. Piggy's business, and actually, yes, benchmark. This is a benchmark. The 225 per test, it's a benchmark, not out of 1,000 studies or 2,000 studies or 5,000 studies. This is a benchmark of, I would say, somewhere around 100,000 studies that Mrs. Piggis's practice has done over a period of a few years. So this number is a very benchmarky number, okay? It's a benchmarky number. So, okay, if we take this as income, we have to deduct here two things. We have to deduct profit and sale of goods. Sale of goods here is your HUD's royalty expense. It's like if you had a manufacturing business, would be what you would pay for raw materials, okay? Because without it, you wouldn't be able to function. So you have a contract with HUD, that's your royalty. So your royalty and your profit, these are the two things that come out first. And then you pay for the rest of the stuff. Let's say that you have still report reviews. Those of you who are under a plan that you have to buy report reviews. Some others are in the FTD that pays just a flat rate, and that flat rate includes your royalties, your report reviews, your everything, okay? And I do encourage you to review that and move to that plan if it's more beneficial for you. If you deduct your staff salary based on a $50 per hour rate, now you tell me why, if I pay them $50 an hour, why do you put here $25 on them? 2 tests an hour. It's an EMG and a neuro ultrasound. Is an EMG over a longer days, an EMG, a few EMGs, a few SSCPs, a few MSK ultrasounds, neuro ultrasounds, but it comes to about 2 tests an hour. And yeah, you're not going to do it the first month. You're in the testing business, but eventually you will do it. Some additional staff and billing expense, equipment expenses for a few years that you'll have to pay the equipment expense. So this is your $80. Now, put your physical therapy numbers down. Put what you make per treatment of physical therapy down, and prove to me that you can make 35 to 40% profit from your physical therapy business. It ain't happening. I can tell you that. It ain't happening. The physical therapy business cannot provide that rate of return. What did he say? What did the electrician say?
I want that to be my, like.
Put this inside here, he said, right?
Yeah, he did.
Does this make sense? So now, with that, get training in all tests, use assessment tool, and guide what tests to refer in order to do all proper testing, pay particular attention to neuro MSK. And now, think about this. If you go and for yourselves, you put the amount of money that you needed for financial security, independence, and freedom, you multiply that by 10, then you divide that by 80, you're going to be able to see the number of tests you need to put on the side that amount of money over a period of 10 years, that with a 10% annual return will be able to provide you this financial security, independence, and freedom. Here, we did not calculate what you do with your physical therapy business or anything. We paid attention to the big container that we'll put up there. And let me answer any questions before I go to my final slide.
So, you know what, we have the number of patients per month, but, so the number of tests is the number of tests. And then
Yeah, so Christina, I'm gonna do one number with you, okay? Is that okay? And give me any number you want. So What is your financial security number? Just give it to me, annual. $120,000 is Christina's financial security number. Girl, you've got an expensive taste. That's good. That's good. You know, the more the merrier, the more the better. Good, good, good. That's awesome. Awesome. So take that number and multiply it by 10. That is $1.2 million, correct? Excellent. So you need to put eventually over a period of 10 years, $1.2 million for this. Divide that by 80. $1.2 million divided by 8 gives you what?
15,000.
You need 15,000 number of total tests. Divide that by 120. 125 total tests per month. Divide that by 12 months. Well, divide it first by 12. Divide that by 2.3. 54 patients per month. Divide that by 4.2 weeks per month. 12.6 patients per week you need to reach that. Christina, how many new patients do you see in your practice? New patients you see in your practice per week? 60 to 70 new patients per week, right? You see, Christina, right? Out of the 60 to 70 new patients per week, 50% of these patients should be receiving some sort of test, even if that is ultrasound. So take half of them, take 6 to 7, let's say 30 patients. Multiply 30 patients by 2.3 tests that each patient should receive. What is that number? Do you have a calculator? Do 30 times 2.3. 69 tests per week you can produce. Multiply that number 69 by 80. How much?
5,520.
You can put in the bank $5,520 into an investment account on an index fund. Multiply that by 12, multiply that by 10. $6,624,000 you'll put in the bank. That, Christina, will give you $600,000 per year, $50,000 a month. Can you live with that? All right. So, but my final thing is, at the end of the day, financial security, financial independence, financial freedom, they're all great. They're fantastic. But at the end of the day, we should be looking at ultimate wealth. And wealth is, yes, absolutely, financial freedom, money. But it's more than that. It is our sense of abundance. It's a feeling also of gratitude, of giving. It's a state of mind where you feel that you have abundance, not just financially, but abundance in all areas of life. You feel a sense of joy that your life is rich. It's something that is not just about you. It's something bigger than you. You have kind of a greater purpose, and you are working for a greatest good. Any questions?
We have them online, but you can do those if you want to text or I can ask them out loud.
Yes, Ben.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. It's something you said was really profound to me. Which might help some. And there was a question about quality versus quantity of tests. And this stuck with me. You said you have to have quantity before you can have quality. And the reason why was because you can't get quality unless you do a whole bunch of tests.
absolutely. But also, survival is possible when quantity comes first before quality. Without quantity, there is no survival. Okay, I'm creating a business and I'm aiming for that business to absolutely survive. And I am going to do one absolutely quality test per week. I'm gonna spend 6 hours for that one test. Are you gonna be able to help anybody? No. That business is doomed to fail. And you know, people, sometimes they'll come into interviews that they are thinking, oh, I'm gonna impress if I am going to talk about the best quality that I'm doing and forget about how many people I'm doing during that. No, it's not. It's a non-survivable viewpoint to look at only. I mean, quality is very important, right? But you get, as you said very correctly, quality with repetition, with more knowledge, doing it again and again, you gain more certainty. And then with more certainty, you can deliver better quality. Yeah.
Yeah, just real quick. I say just real quick, I know it's time for 2 minutes. So the thing is, when it comes to that change, I just want to highlight the energy cost of switching hats. When we shift hats in our own clinics, we've noticed that in the micro level of when I'm treating and then I go to be an admin, there's a shift in my duties, responsibilities. There's a cost of energy and time around that. Same goes from treating patients to EMG. It's related to what you're talking about, that idea that like it might take us a long time to get the first test going in any given day. But when we start separating out more time to focus solely on EMGs, we're going to be a lot more efficient. And then there is a secondary thing called getting better at the test, quicker, more knowledgeable. We can't discount the energy expense of just going from one business to the other, right? Like treating physical therapy patients normally into diagnostic testing. Once we can really funnel that energy in there, we can get more done quicker and get better quicker and get the results we need, right?
Thank you. Within the next, this year and next year, to deliver this stuff. And we're going to get James to remind us the deliverables from us. It would be very important for you guys, number one, to set your goals, put them down in writing. The HADS board and through the business advisory board, we will fully support the mastermind groups so that you guys can keep moving forward in that alongside all the other corporate support processes that are and will be in place. And I want you guys to do two things right now. The first thing is I would like you to save the date for September 17, 18, and 19 for San Antonio, Texas. Oh, hey, on the 17th, we are going to have what is called the Owners Forum. And it is one day where the owners meet. And, you know, we'll be putting with the HADSBAP a good program for that day, which will be a catch-up of this. And then on the 18th and 19th, we're going to have the HADS Symposium and Summit, and we're going to have an administrators forum. So that's an event where you want to bring all of your staff, all of your administrators. It's going to be an awesome event. We have some great surprises in terms of speakers for that event. We'll make soon an announcement about one of the keynote speakers in that event, which is a big deal of a person. And please put down one more date in your calendars right now that the 2022 Leadership Academy is taking place in the sunny Clearwater, Florida on February 26, 25, and 26, 2022. February 25 and 26, 2022. Save the date. Big thank you to the Business Advisory Board. Big thank you to everybody who presented up here, the panels. Everybody did a phenomenal job. Nathan, also, thank you so much for emceeing the event.
Just to reiterate, now that we have FranchiseSoft, use it. And maybe the first question that comes to mind is like, what should I do about diagnostics? I have this question about diagnostics. See if it's in FranchiseSoft. Oh, I don't have a login. Talk to James, right? Where do I find it? Talk to James. So use FranchiseSoft. That is how you will get your team to actually use your policy and procedures. We had to get ourselves trained to, when they come to us with problems, say, what does it say in our policy and procedures manual? Did you look at that first? Yeah. Yeah. Then they go, oh, I didn't do that. Yeah, don't do that. See what it says. It doesn't have a solution. Let's make a policy about it, right? All right. So the way we start is the same way we like to close. If you guys remember, one word close to describe how you're feeling from this weekend. And then we will wait. Hod's BAB and Coffee Talk personalities will meet after this. So don't go anywhere. We're going to meet for about 30, 45 minutes. All right. But so one word close if there's no other announcements. One word close. Graham.
Enlighten.
Renew.
Validated.
Nice.
Revitalized.
Re-energized.
Re-energized.
Clarity.
Clarity.
Encouraged.
Focused.
Refocused.
Refocused.
Empowered.
Yes.
Inspired.
Nice.
I said inspired in the beginning, I was inspired.
Oh, good. We didn't fall off. Nice. Perfect. That was my goal, Tim. Culture driven. Nice. Motivated.
Exhilarated.
Exhilarated.
Thankful.
Yes.
Ready.
Ready.
Encouraged.
Encouraged.
See, if
All
you
right.
were building me, I would have said, I know I have.
And I'm grateful. You guys have been awesome. You guys have been engaged. I'm watching you, and you guys are leaning forward as everyone's doing presentations. You're offering, you're making questions. Thank you for being that. That was my one request, one of our rules. You get out of it what you put into it. The same will be said going forward with your mastermind. So let's stay committed, dedicated to this. All right? We'll go forward. We'll have an awesome 2021. All right. Thank you.